Constellation is brought to you by Factor. Often the first half of my day can be way busier than the second half, or I'm just trying to get things together before I record. So sometimes thinking about lunch can be tough, but Factor's lunch to go options make it effortless. Head to factormeals.com/con50 and use code CON50 to get 50% off. That's code CON50 at factormeals.com/con50 to get 50% off.
Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. For the first time since the show began, I am not joined by my big brother, Dagan Moriarty. He's actually in the woods right now, weirdly enough. His son, Graydon, is a Boy Scout. Dagan was a Boy Scout his entire young life through high school. He didn't become an Eagle Scout, I don't think, but he became a Life Scout, which I think is the second highest thing. And he's been texting me and all of my siblings from the woods. And he's like, yesterday he said, I'm sweating like an overdressed whore in church with the heat on. My God, camping is hard to love. And then on the siblings chat, he was really going off, like just saying like, it's camping is going so great. I think I've been out here for about 47 days and and so he was just basically saying that it's just real rough out there right now because it's so hot and in Pennsylvania, as you guys know. And it's fucking hot as hell down here too. We miss you, Dagan. Come back soon. He wasn't on the most recent episode of Punching Up either because he was gone as well. He's chaperoning, which I think is a nice thing to do. But would I ever do that? No, absolutely not. So no Dagan. Instead, we have 3 guests this week instead of 2. So let's get through them. Dustin Furman,
Hello.
Executive producer, or is that a Starbucks cup? What is that? You have the little...
No. Never.
No.
Not never. I shouldn't say that. If I'm desperate, I will go for a Starbucks. This is from...
There was a lot of Starbucks in Houston.
Oh, yeah. I did have to get Starbucks in Houston. There was very few options. This is from a local shop that Holly actually used to work at for many years. Just a nice little latte. You know, something nice. Nothing wrong with a latte. But yeah, doing all right. I'm coming in fresh, just showered. You know, I wanted to make sure that I'm smelling good for the show. And yeah, I don't envy Dagan at all. Thinking about that reminds me, I know I talked about on this show camping when we used to go to music festivals growing up. This reminded me, one of the years that was like 100 degrees consistently, the showers at the festival broke. Not for one day, not for 2 days, but 3 full days. Broken showers. We're out there like fucking hippies getting buckets of water, just trying to like dump it over yourself, doing whatever you can just to survive. So
nothing sounds worse than multi-day music festivals. I've been invited to so many of them over time. Like Bonnaroo was really big when I was in college, for instance, and all these, the only festival I would ever go to was in San Francisco, which was Outside Lands, which is in Golden Gate Park. And it's because I lived right on Golden Gate Park. You literally just walk there and you walk home. It's like, all right, I can do this. But there's nothing less exciting. Like 311 played their seminal record Transistor front to back at some festival in Florida like 10 years ago. And a bunch of people went and you had to stay overnight. I'm like, I don't like anything that much to want to be out there for 3 days. So God bless you. Maybe it was a Christian rock festival. So literally, God bless you.
Yeah, well, it was Cornerstone Music Fest, which funny enough, when I mentioned Cornerstone, probably about a month ago now, we talked about that. I had a bunch of people come out of the woodworks to message me saying that we had been at the same festival the same years, which was pretty.
I love that.
Pretty cool.
Love that. Yeah. Ramon and I figured out that we were at the same 311 show at Roseland Ballroom in the fall of 2000. This was 2 years before we knew each other, and I'm like, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so weird. Did we bump into each other? Were we next to each other? Did we see each other? Mm-hmm. Who knows? Same thing with my good friend Nate. His wife was at Northeastern Law when I was a Northeastern undergrad. And I'm like, did we have some sort of like rendezvous on the street one day or something? I don't know. Anyway, Dustin, it's good to see you.
Wow. Yeah.
As far as coffee is concerned, I don't get it. It's one of those things that I really want to get. There are two things in the culinary world that I would love to get, and I don't: coffee and wine. And coffee, it's good. Like, I don't mind it. I just don't understand why everyone's so obsessed with it. Like, it's its own thing. It would be the equivalent of me saying, like, let's go to the Pepsi store or something. What? Why does coffee get its own? It would be like having a Gatorade store or something in my mind. It's like coffee. It's something you drink like maybe once in a blue, but people are just obsessed with it, man. Like, I just wish I understood it more. I'm sorry, Ben. Go ahead. Ben Smith, associate producer. Welcome.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think the better word is addicted. Like, Dustin and I and many other people like coffee because we like coffee. But a lot of people that I know drink swill coffee because they need it to survive. The caffeine and I think there's even just like past the caffeine, like once the caffeine stops having as much effect, it's a psycho effect on them. I don't know the right words for psych things, but like, it's a habit at some point. It becomes less about the experience of drinking coffee and more about the experience of not going crazy because you're not drinking coffee.
Right.
So I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Seems it seems like a somewhat expensive hobby, although no more expensive than many other, or no more expensive than other people's habits, though. Cigarettes, weed, drinking, those are all more expensive, probably.
It can be very expensive. I think, Ben, for me, it's somewhere in the middle where I am addicted to coffee. Full stop. There's no denial of that. Sometimes it is just a delivery method for caffeine, but I enjoy coffee so much, guys. I will sometimes think about it when I'm laying in bed, thinking like, damn, I'm excited to get that cup tomorrow morning. Maybe that's an addiction level thing. Maybe I've got some Stockholm syndrome from the caffeine or something, but it's not just about getting that energy boost. It's about the flavors, the hot cup, and the ritual of making the coffee. I love all that. So
yeah, Ramon's into that shit too. Yeah.
At some point, if you're at my house again, I think I tried to offer this to you last time, but I feel like, I don't know if you've had the tier of coffee that I've
never. This is the thing, is that I don't mind coffee. I'm not put off by drinking it at all. Like, I think it's totally fine. I like espresso after dinner once in a while. And I'll get Irish coffee, and that's about as far as it goes for me. When I was a little kid, you're Italian. Well, my Italian fucking people would all gather, and then they would all drink coffee afterwards, like my grandma and everyone, and they would slip me a little bit of coffee, and I liked that or whatever. But my dad's a big coffee drinker. I think my sister Allie is a big coffee drinker. Dagan's a big coffee drinker. So I know, like, my dad's like mega passionate about it, like you are. And Ramon looks like a fucking chemist when he's making coffee. I don't even know what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Like, why are you doing all this? This is insane.
Use an AeroPress?
I don't know what he does. It looks like he has like a literal set. Like, if you were in a 19th century Victorian story and they had all the bottles and the little cat, and they opened it and they pulled. That's like what he's got going on.
Yeah.
And very interesting. I don't know where he picked that up, because that wasn't the thing when we were in college. Micah, it's good to see you, Micah Watson. Note the bass in the background of Micah's shot. Yeah, tell everyone I'm excited for you, because you're going to finally, people think about, like, I'd like to try to learn something. I'd like to try to do something. I want to paint, right? I'd like to travel to this place. I always like that as well with a lot of different things. But finally, you're going to try to pick up a bass and learn how to play it. I'm excited for you.
I am. Yeah, I haven't played an instrument in quite some time. I played saxophone when I was a kid. I enjoyed it very much, but then we ended up living in apartments when I was in high school. I just felt too awkward to ever play it while we lived there, so no more saxophone. And then I just really never tried again to play an instrument, but I certainly have a passion for it. Every song I listen to, I'm always listening for the bass specifically. Colin kind of noticed that and asked, like, well, would you ever want to learn to play it? And it's something I literally never considered, because I just don't have money for such things. So it was just my birthday present, because I'm turning 30 on Monday, which is horrifying and sad.
I didn't realize you were slightly older than me.
Oh, yeah, July.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, so I'm going to finally learn how to play. I'm just waiting to get a couple more accessories with it. Like, I need a strap for it because it's very heavy and it's very awkward to hold otherwise. But once I get that, I'm going to start taking lessons. I'm very excited. Oh, this is I don't know. It's just one of those things I've always wanted to do, but just couldn't. Aside from I still pick up the recorder every now and then. I still have
Classic.
mine from second grade.
Play
Every
the
once in a
Titanic
while, I
theme
dig that out.
on that.
I don't, but I want to learn it.
I like the bad
I honestly
Titanic
do
theme
want to learn that.
on the recorder is my favorite.
That's what I was
It's
thinking of.
hysterical. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Like, so it was funny because I bought the bass and the amp and like a cable or whatever, but I didn't want to buy the strap because I'm a drummer by trade, let's say, but I play bass somewhat okay, and I have my bass back there, and guitar I'm not very good at, but I'm self-taught in these things. I learned them in high school and beginning of college. Like when I was in a band for several years, and like you would just walk around and start messing around with things, and then you realize, oh, I can actually kind of play this a little bit. And then so I encouraged Micah, I'm like, don't do what I did, like take lessons. I took drum lessons when I was a kid. It was really important to me. It broke a lot of my bad habits. I used to play open-handed, for instance, when I was in middle school, which is a really bad way to play drums. Although people do play that way. They immediately cross my arms and like, you cannot, really learn how to play drums at a high level like that unless you're kind of savantish or whatever. So I encouraged her to take lessons, which is great, but I didn't get her the strap because in my experience with my band, my old bandmates and friends, that's a very personalized part of the setup. I was nervous enough buying the bass itself because there's a million options of colors. And I went with something that I think she would like. I think she would like it more than all the other choices. I told her she can take it back or look or whatever. The problem for me was we live in a somewhat sizable house, but we are in each other's shit all the time just because everything's everywhere. And so what I was frustrated about was Ramon gave me all these suggestions months ago, and I was like, all right, he's like, did you order them or whatever? I'm like, I have nowhere to put any of this stuff because she's going to eventually find it. It's so conspicuous. I can't say like this massively long box is a G.I. Joe or something, So I wait until like a week ago and I go on Sweetwater, which is an awesome website. Musicians around the country know about Sweetwater. It's a really awesome website. And I order it, no problems at all. But then it all arrives and it's all just put on the porch and Micah sees all of it when she's coming home. And it's like a box. It says like Fender on it. And I'm like, come on. Like, don't you want to have like a little bit more of a conspicuous shipping than this? Like just if you're like shipping it in like a city or something, it's going to get stolen in about 2 seconds. But beyond that, I was just so mad because I was like, I really tried to work it out because there's nowhere we can really put things and hide them for long periods of time, especially these bigger items. So it was immediately ruined. So I brought it in and I'm like, do you just want to open it since And then she just opened it at that point. That's why she got it early. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, learning instruments is great. I said, I think in December that I wanted to get back to playing guitar this year. I have not done that yet. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Micah, this can be a motivator for me and we can start a band now.
Yeah, we got your dad on drums. We have Colin on second drums.
We'll
give Ben
right.
a triangle because I don't know if Ben plays an instrument, but we'll get him in there.
Yeah,
I have played instruments in the past. I played bass for a while. I haven't touched it. I mean, I've literally touched it. It's sitting like 6 feet away from me, but I haven't played my bass in a long time. I played drums in high school and played kit for like our concert band stuff. And then I played synthesizer in a band I was in at one point. So
that's sick. I love synth.
Yeah.
I'm just a huge fan of synth over rock, especially.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about Final Fantasy 16's soundtrack is all the synth in it, which I was surprised by. I took piano lessons for a couple years, and I took saxophone was actually the first instrument I played in school. But I don't think I can play a little piano still. Like I remember certain like things, and I'll always play the same thing when I sit at a piano, like the same 3 or 4 things that I know how to play. But sax, I don't think I could even tell you like the first thing about it. I mean, that's what taught me how to read music, which I was thankful for. But so yeah, she's gonna go all set up. We'll have a little house band going. Travis is probably a better drummer than me. He's much more experienced than I am. He's just older, so maybe I'll play the garbage cans like that guy in Slipknot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love Slipknot, by the way, but it always bothered me. I'm like, why are there 3 drummers in this band? Like, what is going on here? This is stupid as fuck. Like, I can understand a drummer and a percussionist. Humphreys McGee, for instance, is a band that uses a percussionist to a great degree, and it's awesome. But you can't. I would like listen. I actually looked it up because there are entire like Reddit threads and people like, where do you hear them? Other than like just it's like playing along with the bass drum or whatever. Anyway, I'm going on a diatribe. My friends, this is Constellation. 4 of us here, minus Dagan, so 3 guests. Like I said, Each of us will talk about a topic. I have the email here. We have to be mindful of the time today. We're going to go about 3 hours, I imagine, or less, because Dustin's got to... Where you got to go, Dustin? You got to go to Pittsburgh, you said.
Yeah, we're going to a Japanese restaurant for a friend's birthday. So, and they had to like reserve a time and everything for that. So, I don't know. Should be
Japanese,
fun.
if you please.
Japanese. I'm going to get some tuna not rolls. The tuna, it's not sashimi. Anyway, I'm going to get some sushi, I think, when I'm there. But
Fair
anyway.
enough. All right. I'm looking at the topics and what order we want to go in. Dustin, let's start with you. I actually like your topic. I like all the topics actually this week. They're all interesting, but
yeah.
I want to know where this one comes from. This is something that I feel like I actually excel at. And so I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Oh, okay. So my topic, I always try to pick the topic around who else is going to be on the show with me. And I knew particularly that Ben and I would get along very well because we have pulled many things in our time in the name of frugality. And that is my topic, is about being frugal. And I think this is a fun one too, because I've noticed, not all the time, but every once in a while, the audience will chime in, and usually not very positive, saying my frugality, that I'm a cheap ass or something like that. I talk about like, I don't want to spend money on this or something like that. And I think that's an important element. I was pre-discussing the topic with Holly last night. She said, you got to make sure that you put an emphasis that being frugal and being cheap, while sometimes, if you're trying to do one or the other, you kind of wade waters. They are different, right? Being cheap is only buying stuff at the dollar store. It breaks a month and a half later. You buy it again and over and over. You go for the cheapest possible thing. Whereas being frugal, at least to me, is just trying to get the best bang for your buck. And sometimes that may involve spending more money overall. But the frugal lifestyle is something very, very important, both to Holly and I, that I was thinking of the different ways that it manifests for us. And there's a few different major ways, and some are less interesting to talk about. But I think one of the main ways that people find surprising is that Holly and I, one car. And I know you guys we're all one car houses. So that's something that there are sometimes sacrifices, I guess, where we have to figure out different arrangements, or if someone needs to leave for the weekend or something like that, we have just one car.
Do you ever, by the way, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
I was talking to my sister Dana about this, because I don't drive, as I think the audience knows. That's why we have one car. Otherwise, I assume we'd have two cars. I haven't owned a car in a long time. And I wonder, I was telling Dana, I'm like, I wonder what my neighbors think about that. Like, what kind of story would you spin if you realize, because in our neighborhood, it's like 3-4 cars at every house, like tons of 2, 3, like 2 at the minimum, but usually more than that, a car in the garage, whatever. And I was saying, I think what I would think is that I had a DWI. Or like I was DWI'd out and I couldn't drive anywhere. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, that's the fiction I would have made up about my situation if I lived next to me and I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He just doesn't drive anywhere. He doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
No, I'm just a silly recluse, man. Leave me alone. That's why. So I wanted to ask you, do you ever think about that? Like, what people think about that? Or is that less conspicuous, do you think, in your neighborhood?
I'll be honest, I've never once thought about that. Mainly because I don't think about that for my neighbors at all. When it comes to, like, I think about certain things where if my neighbors are doing weird stuff coming in and out of the house a million times a day or something like that. But I've never once thought about, well, no, that's not exactly true. Because Ben will remember my one neighbor. I think he had 3 or 4 cars and there was 2 people living in the house. And I thought that was a little odd, but I don't know if I would think, I guess it's just because it's so close to my own situation, or I'd be like, oh, they don't need 2 cars. At least I'm much like you, Colin, where I don't need to leave the house for my job pretty much ever.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't need to go anywhere. I literally don't go anywhere. And people are like, that's so strange. And I'm like, not really. People think that it means that I just stay in a room inside. I'm like, I'm outside all the time. I just don't go anywhere. Right. Like, I just don't. It's totally different. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
If I do leave, Holly and I are usually going somewhere together, or if I'm leaving the house, it's going to be after work hours where Holly might be back anyway. And so the big thing about cars, having 2 cars for me, because at one point, Holly and I did need 2 cars. We had them, is that it was just so fucking annoying having 2 cars, because I already hate dealing with the maintenance and the upkeep of one car. And so you're just doubling that amount of stuff to worry about. Now, to be fair, during the time we had 2 cars, we had 2 shitty old cars because that's what we could afford at the time. So it would maybe be different now if I had 2 somewhat modern cars available, that it wouldn't be as annoying to take care of. But I don't want to deal with that. Now, Colin, I want to take you to task here for a minute.
Do what you have to do.
I'm not trying to call you out, but I'm going to inadvertently do that in what I'm about to say.
Excellent.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Here's the thing. The number one frugal mentality is Aldi. You got to be shopping at Aldi. And honestly, I think that buying name brand stuff by and large is a waste of money. Just throwing money out the window.
I couldn't even disagree with you more, but I'm going to let you go. I'm just going to let you go.
Throwing money out the window. Just throwing it right out. And here's the thing. Growing up, my family used to go to Aldi too. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, Aldi, not a great place. Quality, not great. Oftentimes you would get something and think, yeah, this is not quite as good as the normal version. Let me tell you though, Aldi turned things around over the past decade. In fact, I think oftentimes Aldi is on par, maybe even better in some scenarios. I'm not saying every once in a while, maybe you'll get a different cereal and you're like, this is a little not quite the same, but very, very rarely, almost ever, do you notice a total downgrade in buying an Aldi version of a product. You do have to learn how to what the store has to offer. Sometimes there are going to be select things they don't have that you still need. But overall, I remember when Holly and I first got married, we went to, because we were going to like either Walmart or something like that. Probably Walmart. Yeah. When we first got married, because we had a new apartment together. And so we needed a bunch of random stuff that Aldi wouldn't have, like cleaning supplies, stuff like that. So we were just getting our groceries there too. And then we went to Aldi, and it was seriously, I think, more than half the price to get basically the same amount of food. And so I just got to say the Aldi grind is something very near and dear to me. But I want to bring you in on this, because the last element that I'll bring into this before we talk with everybody is just that I am a deal hunter to a fault, where there are many things that if I'm buying something, it's like, okay, we at least got to find a tiny deal. Like, okay, if this isn't on sale anywhere, I'm at least going to buy it at Target to get the 5% off on the red card, something like that. There's a website that I love to use called Slick Deals, where it's basically a deal aggregate site where you can it puts all these together. People can comment on stuff like, oh, if you can add this code or something like that. That's all really, really, really essential for me, where it's immediately if I'm like, oh, I need this, the first place I go is not Amazon or Target.com or something like that. It's Slick Deals, where I'm going to go and search there and see like, okay, does this have what I need? Or is there a deal on what I need? And if not, maybe there's something comparable that I can do. And so in the past, Ben and I have used Slick Deals, not as so much recently, but they'll be like, hey, this thing's on price error, or this is on clearance somewhere at Walmart's or Target's. And so we go out and find something on clearance, like crazy clearance or whatever. So Ben, I'll throw this to you first, as I know that you and I have shared in this for many years, and often still to this day. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about Final Fantasy 16. I was like, dude, here, it's on sale here. Send it to you. You had already got it. But how are you feeling about the frugal life?
I'd say that I've been relatively frugal for my whole life. Part of that is because, I like to be smart with money. Part of it sometimes in my life has just been because of necessity, where it was like, well, if I'm not frugal here, my newly married wife and I are not going to have a home that we own anymore. So I have to, be able to intentionally do things. But yeah, as far as, you're talking about deals and stuff like that, I always at least look for a deal. But I find that as I've gotten a little bit older, not necessarily have more disposable income, because now I have kids and stuff. So, that kind of stuff gets eaten up. But like, I've just realized that like, oh, wow, last time I went to look for a deal, I spent 3 days waiting to find a discount. and enjoyed that thing less because of it. And now I'm just going to buy it and be happy right now. And I certainly don't do that a lot. I mean, honestly, really the only thing I buy that I don't have to buy on a regular basis is games. I don't have to buy video games, but that's about the only thing I buy that I don't need to live. Most everything else is either gifts or I don't know, somehow get it for free. So very rarely do I find myself in a situation where I'm having to decide whether to be frugal or not because I just don't buy things. But as far as your points about Aldi, yes, that is the way. However, Dustin, I will, since you called Colin to task,
please
I
call
will
me
take
out.
you to task.
Yes.
I have been with you we've known each other for what? Almost a decade now. Very near. 2015,
that sounds about
I think.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been so many times I've been out to eat with you and you've been like, I don't want to get that because it's $1 more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it makes it better. Like you're telling me we're going to go to this restaurant where everything costs $12 instead of this restaurant where everything costs $14, even though the $14 restaurant is like 1,000 times better. So, I mean, I'm calling you out, but I'm also kind of calling myself out because I do that too.
I'm glad you said this.
Yeah.
Just because that is an element. We were talking about being cheap and being frugal. I got to, you got to check yourself every once in a while, like you're saying, where you've seen me. I mean, you're calling me out, but I know you've seen me where I've been like, oh my God, should I spend $3 on this thing? Right. I'll carry it around for a few minutes, think about it, or maybe just stand there and think about it. And it's like, dude, and your time is worth more than that $3, that $2, whatever. Yeah. I got to check myself on that every once in a while. That actually is pretty regular still when I'm at the store. I'm like,
me too.
That's $2. That's $1. Nah, we're not doing that. Yeah. But how much of this do you think? I always think of when we were at the cigar bar. I heard so our cigar rep would come in from one of the various companies. I don't remember which one it was, and was talking about some of the different cigars that they sell. And they're like, oh, well, this one doesn't do as well in markets around here. And it's because people look at this, and around this area, you have a lot of blue collar people who say, well, this costs $12, but half of that's, the tube and the packaging and this. So I don't want to buy that one. I'm going to buy this one where the packaging is more simple and you're probably getting a better cigar or just something cheaper. And I think about that often, like the Western PA or even, I guess, just Midwest way of looking at things where it's like, oh, I ain't spending $10 on that. Dude, that's something I'd hear my grandma say all the time. Just like, oh, that's ridiculous. So do you think that plays in?
I think it definitely does. There's definitely different mentalities in areas of the country. I know that I had a friend who grew up in New York City, and she actually was a coworker of mine, and she was like, it's weird that I come here and everybody's like, oh, let's split the checks. Where there we would just be like, oh, well, I'll take it this time and I'll take it that time, and like everybody takes turns picking up the check, and I'm like, well, I think people do it here because like it's the culture, like that's just the thing that happens here. I don't know if it's that like people are stingy necessarily, although maybe that is the case, but yeah, I think that presentation definitely adds into whether or not people are willing to spend money. But I don't know. I think that is if you're buying a premium product, like a premium cigar, a $10 or $12 cigar, whatever, not that that's an expensive cigar, but you get the point.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that is more cheapness when you say like, oh, I don't want this one because it looks nice, because it's probably not as good. I think that's more cheapness and less frugality, because frugality would be not smoking cigars.
Right.
Being cheap is I'm going to enjoy this thing that is an extra, not a non-necessity in my life, but I don't want to spend any money on it.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
Or going and getting like a black and mild.
Yeah, that's
hell yeah.
That's just like health abuse. Yeah, I like them too, but they're not cigars.
No, they're not.
No.
What are they? They're considered cigarillos, right? Is that what they would call them?
I think legally that is the definition. Yes.
Yeah. Dude, a little wine, black and mild. That never hurt anybody. Let me tell you.
Black and mild. Wow, I just like them straight up. I don't go with the wine. We got to put you. We got to put you deep in the ghetto if you're. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big hit
with the wood tip, baby. Let's go.
The wood tip, of course. But the wine, black and mild. I didn't know you rolled like that.
Oh yeah. It's
I
been
didn't know-
many years since I've had a wine
streets are
wood
calling
tip
for
Black
Dustin right
Amaro,
now, I think.
But
They're yearning for him. They're
I
yearning for
didn't
Dustin.
know anyone earnestly smoked the wine ones. I thought they were there for once only.
dude,
The
I used
streets
when I was
yearn for
18.
Dustin.
Constellation is brought to you by Factor. We are now deep into summer, and if you're like me, that means you're leaving the house more than ever, going out, hanging out with friends, doing fun stuff, and you might be looking for some wholesome, convenient meals to support those sunny, active days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track reaching your goals. I love Factor because it helps me stick to my wellness goals even when I'm in and out of the house during the summer. Treat yourself to 34 plus weekly restaurant options such as bruschetta shrimp risotto, green goddess chicken, and grilled steak filet mignon, ready in just 2 minutes. Often the first half of my day can be way busier than the second half, or I'm just trying to get things together before I record. So sometimes thinking about lunch can be tough. But Factor's lunch-to-go options make it effortless. Wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go. No microwave required. Head to factormeals.com/con50 and use code CON50 to get 50% off. That's code CON50 at factormeals.com/con50 to get 50% off. Dude, that was good stuff. But Colin, I called you out, and then I threw it to Ben instead of you. That was probably a little rude of me because I've just been leaving you hanging.
I don't care. No, it's fine.
It's
my show.
Like I said, I wasn't trying to call you out. I just know you got a thing for the name brand. So
yes, I am a firm believer that you get what you pay for, and I don't know how many times I have to be reminded of that. To just, I don't get reminded of it very much anymore, to be honest. But there have been big times in my life where it's like, that's what you got. I mean, it's what you paid for. I've gotten shitty couches, shitty mattresses, all those kinds of things. So I just pay for things. Like when I feel like when there's a necessity, a good example is when I moved to LA, I got literally one of those like Ashley couches. And I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever, I was literally aghast. I was like, this is horrible. This is the most horrible thing. I can't believe people buy this and actually sit on these for years at a time. And so I got a more expensive couch and it was way better, and, here's my take on this is, and I was writing some notes here, is that like, there are some things that I do that are frugal, no doubt. But I think that actually just my natural disposition has always, especially as an adult, has always kind of just been like, well, there's really nothing you care to spend money on. It's not that you're not willing to spend money. And when times come up that you should spend or want to spend or can spend money, it's not that you don't. It's just that I'm kind of lucky. Like, for instance, clothes. I don't give a fuck about clothes. I really don't. Like, I haven't cared about clothes since I worked at IGN. The second we were at Kind of Funny and I could basically wear PJs all day, I immediately did it. I haven't been a grown man wearing adult clothes on a daily basis for 10 years. I used to wear my button downs and my nice jeans and my nice shoes and go downtown San Francisco. I'm like, and that was cool. And you feel good when you look good and all that. And I get that, but I don't care about clothes. So I literally just wear the same things over and over again until they disintegrate. And then I buy new ones. And I have some brands that I really like. I really, and I'm not saying this just because they've sponsored the show in the past, but Mac Weldon is a brand I'm totally, say it, Micah.
Mackie Schmackies?
The Mackie Schmackies. Let's go. Hell yeah.
And so there are certain brands I like. And of course, I'm like all about Adidas and all of that with my shoes. But I think that I just don't have that like predilection towards clothing, for instance. So like, that's just a whole thing I just don't spend money on. Right. And then I'm not against collecting things like, here, let me see if I can reach them. I buy these G.I. Joe. This is Shipwreck. These come out like a few times a month and they're $20 or $25 each. And I buy every one of them. The reason I do that is because, I want to set them up eventually up there too. But, I want to show support as I often do for the things that I like, the brands that I like. It's just that typically there's no way to spend money on G.I. Joe, or there's no way to spend money on Mega Man, or there's no way to spend money on Castlevania. That's what we were lamenting on Sacred Symbols when I was saying like, I just don't want to buy that Castlevania collection because I fucking hate limited run games. Like and is that all you have to do is dangle Castlevania in front of me to do it? I'm trying to not just be like consumer and right. Show like some restraint and have some principles. So I think that I've lucked out in some weird way, because when there were things that I was really into, when I was a kid, money burned a hole in my pocket. I didn't have $1,000 to my name until I was deep into college. Not even close. I saved up for like an $800 Trinitron Sony TV when I was in high school, and that was like pulling teeth. I had to like really not buy things and really control myself. I was making like $150 a week or something at my job. So it was just excruciating. And when I saved up like $600 or $700, as people know, I broke my collarbone right before 9/11, and then I just never went back to work because I'd saved up like $600, and I was like, oh, I'll just make this work. And I did, like, all the way until I went to college. I was just like, yeah, I'll live on $600. It's fine. So I think if Mega Man was what Star Wars was, if all of these different things, if G.I. Joe was the biggest toy phenomenon in the world right now, if all the things I liked were commercial, then I don't think I would be having this conversation in the same way. So I just wanted to say that as well. But there are things that I spend money on and have no problem spending money on it. And I've done much better for myself as I've gotten older, and I acknowledge that. And I feel like since we're talking about this, I have to just say that. It's like I'm not like living hand to mouth at all. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that live like that, and I feel for those people. But even when I did live in that situation when I was young, I was able to save a ton of money and just be really, really disciplined. I think a lot of it just comes from complete financial paranoia. It's the same reason why I want to knock out my mortgage. Right. And like the only reason I don't is because it's considered financially stupid at a low rate to knock your mortgage out. But I'm just like, I don't want to owe any money. I just want to have security and all of that. But when you put a good drink in front of me, good food in front of me, I'll buy it. I'll pay a lot of money for it. I have no problem spending a lot of money on food and drinks. I think it's totally like that experiential situation, totally worth it to me. But on the other hand, like I cut my own hair, right? Like I like haven't been to a barber in years. Like, so, and subscription services are a good example of this too. I'm like a whack-a-mole with subscription services. Like I won't let any of them keep going, with the exception of, like I've said, Netflix and Amazon and PS Plus, I guess, because of the cloud saving. Like if I want to watch HBO, I like get it and then I'll cancel it. If I want to watch, like when we watch Twisted Metal, I'll get Peacock and then I'll cancel it. I could easily afford these things, as many people can, but I just refuse to pay. And I think that's an important thing I wanted to talk about frugality, and why I consider myself frugal is because I say no a lot. And that's what I've always told people, since they're like, how do you save money? How do you be financially sane and all that? And I'm like, you just got to say no most of the time to your instincts, to what people want you to do, to possibilities. You want to go out to dinner? No. Maybe you say yes every 3 times, and then maybe the math changes for you in your life, and so on and so forth. So I think it's like a way of life where you have to kind of like get that mentally into you. But as far as brand name food is concerned, I just think that if you don't know the difference between Pepsi and RC Cola, I think you're missing a chromosome, right? Like I don't know how else to put it. Like if you don't know the difference between Boar's Head and Columbus meat, if they're put in front of you and you eat those, like there's a major difference between those brands. If you don't know the difference between Scott and like Charmin toilet paper, or Bounty and Sparkle, or any of the, like these brands are massively different from each other. So I appreciate the Aldi point of view, because I was a big I consider them linked in the sense that Trader Joe's is kind of that. It's like maybe a little step, like a half a step above, but it was the same thing, like very affordable. You have one option for everything. I used to love that place when I was in my early days in San Francisco. So I don't begrudge that. I just think that I'm especially, and Micah makes fun of me about this, but I'm especially particular about what I eat, because I only eat once a day. So like I don't want to wash a meal and then be like, all right, well, the only thing I have now is my dessert. I guess I can have a fucking peanut butter on bread, or like whatever I eat late at night for my snack, but my meal is washed out. So that's why I'm like very particular, and I think it's worth paying. And I think you would agree, Micah, in the sense that although you were rolling your eyes at me, but you were talking about this with meat, weren't you? I mean, you were just lamenting this with me. You're getting into barbecuing and smoking. And you were talking about, the accessibility of meat, how you have to pay for meat. Like if you want good cuts of meat, if you want quality meat, you pay for the meat. I mean, it's no different. Yeah, it's like
no. What's different is that specifically the restaurant thing is that I love Cracker Barrel, but you won't set foot in there because like it's not worth wasting a dinner on Cracker Barrel.
It's so annoying because
it doesn't matter how much my wife loves it. I'm not wasting a dinner on it, and that's so what I was rolling my eyes at.
Because I keep telling you we can go whenever you want. Like let's just go,
but you don't actually want to go. I know you don't
This is
want to go. You're
unwinnable.
going to
This
tell
is
me it
such
was
a-
a wasted dinner.
Women,
I didn't
dude.
realize Cracker Barrel was an essential
It's my-
part of Micah's
Women,
It's my
lifestyle.
women, because
favorite.
this is what I'm saying. This is
Wow.
insane. Because like I'm like, oh, she's like, we go to Cracker Barrel. I'm like, okay, like we'll go to Cracker Barrel. And then she's like, but you don't want to go to Cracker Barrel. And I'm like, but I'm telling you that I'll
No,
go to
but
Cracker
then-
Barrel with you. I just
but
don't have the
then-
proper disposition, I guess.
The last time I said I wanted to go to Cracker Barrel, you said, and I quote, "I thought you got that out of your system." Because I went last year once with my parents. And I guess you thought that me going to Cracker Barrel once with my folks was enough for the rest of my life. So that's how I knew you don't want to go.
Well, we're going to dinner for your birthday. We can go to Cracker Barrel if you'd like.
I actually thought about that, but I thought you'd make fun of me because you're going to be like, I could take you to the nicest place in town and you want to go to the Barrel, but like I did kind of want to go to the
Okay,
Barrel.
so we'll go to
Barrel.
Cracker Barrel for you. It's your birthday. I mean, we'll go to the Cracker Barrel.
That's true. That's
Wow.
true.
Anyway, go
It
ahead.
is my
Say
favorite
what you
restaurant.
need. Say your part. If you need to say anything else about me and make me look bad in front of everyone, please.
Wow.
Well, it doesn't make you look bad, but I'm just, when you talk about like Michael will agree with me on this, it's like, no.
I make myself look bad enough. I don't need other people making me look bad. Micah,
Not on
how are you?
the
Where,
restaurants thing.
where do you
There's
stand
just-
on? First of all, we can go to Cracker Barrel for your birthday,
Yeah.
but where do you stand on the issue of frugality? And how do you, where? I'm curious what you think of my take on it too. Like, do you consider me a frugal person or? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll start. I generally think that you're quite frugal. You have things that you are willing to spend money on, and those things you're willing to spend a lot of money on. And yeah, the smart water, the weed, like these are things that Colin has no budget for. Like it's just like however much I want to spend on it, I'll spend on it. And that's fine because in other aspects of life, like I try and keep our groceries affordable type thing, like we cook relatively not healthy, but like I cook a lot of fresh produce that costs money. It's more expensive to buy the fresh produce.
Mike
than
is such a
frozen.
good cook, by the way. It's like,
Well, thank you.
it's insane. Like it's really, really, I was telling her that she could like really turn it into something if she wanted to, but I think you have to hold things for yourself to like enjoy,
Yeah,
Go on.
my dad always said never cook for a living. So that was something that it is like the joy of cooking for like my loved ones is kind of how I want to keep it. But I do try to keep like our groceries, like steak, is one of those things like, oh, this week, it's on sale. We'll get some steaks for the grill. Next week, chicken's on sale. Great. Like I don't live by the sales because sometimes they aren't great. Sometimes it's like, well, saving 50 cents isn't worth, waiting a week to eat what I want to eat. But I do try to keep an eye on the circulars, especially like the digital coupons. Makes it so much easier now to coupon. They don't have to clip them all out, hand them to the cashier. It's just tied to your Publix account or like BJ's has the digital coupons. So, and they save a lot of money. Like one of my recent trips, it's like I saved an extra $15 because I spent 5 minutes adding these coupons to my account.
Yeah, it's good.
So stuff like
that sounds very satisfying to me.
It is. Oh yeah, you wait till the end and you get your receipt and it says how many coupons you had. It's fantastic.
Mm.
So things like that, I'm good at. I'm not the best at being frugal. And this is where it's kind of like you can have a life experience and go two different directions with it. Like Dustin, I grew up with parents that didn't have a lot of extra income. My response as an adult is that I have a hard time telling myself no, because as a kid, I got hardly anything. So it's like I got all my sister's hand-me-down clothes. I got all her old toys, old books. It was just always, used items from tag sales, the thrift store. And then as an adult, instead of ending up being very frugal like my parents, I have the issue of it's really hard to tell myself no after like many years of never getting the newest item, never getting the things you really wanted type thing. I'm getting better about it. Like I have not bought new clothes in a long time, which is big for me. When I worked like my office job, I was always buying like new outfits and stuff. It was easy to justify like, oh, these are work clothes, you need them type thing. So I've gotten 10 times better about that. My biggest thing though is hobbies of like, oh, I get a new hobby. That's an excuse to drop a bunch of money on it. Like, oh, you're getting into barbecuing? Well, you need all these different types of wood and I want to try a new type of charcoal. And there's just like 1,000 accessories I could buy. And that's just kind of how my mind works with like hyper fixating on a new hobby and then being like, let's buy every possible item related to this hobby. And that's maybe the hobby in itself is just buying new things. But I'm getting better about that. Like I agonized for like a week over if I wanted to try this new brand of charcoal. I did buy the charcoal, but I actually paused before buying it And that's progress. Because the old me would have just been like, add to cart, who cares? You know, it's for cooking.
Right.
But
I think that's a very millennial thing, is because Ben and I have talked about this, that before we buy anything that we'll just say is like not a small investment, not something disposable, right, is that I will watch every known YouTube video on the internet, every video, every review. I will check out everything. Before I buy something, I will know it front to back. And then eventually, if something fails during that process, then it's like, okay, I'm not buying it. Mm-hmm. It's a huge waste of time, about 80% of it. But I don't know if that's just a very, like, we grew up with having the internet, went with buying stuff and being like, okay, well, I can see the price of where this is in every brick and mortar store in my town and can compare and buy the cheapest one. So there's that element, but also just like there's so much more information that you're not going to buy the bad charcoal. There's so many options. You can really take the time and seek out all this information, for better or for worse.
Yeah, that's honestly a big part of it is, not all reviews can be trusted, of course, but I found a website where they have like highly detailed ratings of charcoal. And I was up until like 3 a.m. looking at it. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
The whole thing is just that, there's so much availability online of like, I can see how good this brand is. Like, I was going to buy this charcoal at BJ's. I go online, find out it's horrible. People said it sparks like crazy. Some guy said it's deck on fire, whole thing, right? And I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't buy that brand, or the brand that's always got rocks in it is a known thing. So, it's just one of those, I maybe sometimes agonize a little too much over some purchases, but for me, it's improvement over my previous mentality of just buying whatever I wanted type thing. And not that these are big items, like biggest thing being a video game, biggest thing being some shoes at Target.
Right.
But it is important for me to just learn to say no to myself. You got to tell childhood Micah that like everything's fine. You're not poor anymore. You also don't need every video game that's ever been released, or every anime figure that's ever been released. I completely stopped buying new figures. Like, I have my shelf back here. I don't have any more space for anything. I haven't ordered any new figures in quite some time. So things like that I'm getting better about. But in like daily living, I definitely am like relatively frugal. I've never been someone who says you need like super nice clothes or anything. It's more like I would just get bored with stuff and I'd want something different. But I'm not like, oh, I only wear this brand. I've never had like super nice handbags or anything. I think that's dumb. Like, don't spend $300
the brand
on a
stuff.
purse.
I never understood that.
Yeah, stuff like that I'm not choosy about. Or like my car. I have a car that's reliable and it's affordable. That's what matters to me. It doesn't have to be the nicest car in the world. And even if I had more money, I wouldn't choose a super fancy car. Like, I had told Colin that like my dream car is like a Subaru Impreza hatchback. All right.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's literally
that's
what
like
Micah's
dream. That's like the top of the tops for me of like what I'd want for a car. Now, reality would be like an El Camino, but they don't make those anymore. But that's besides the point. Mm-hmm. But it is like my idea of luxury is also still a bit skewed by growing up relatively low income. And then also as an adult, just still realizing, there's things you don't need. This car goes places. It's safe enough. So there's a lot of aspects of my life where I could still improve. But with the big things, I think I have a pretty decent outlook on going for quality, but not going for like excessive. And that's kind of where I try to stay of like, okay, we'll drive a nice little Honda. It's reliable. It's affordable. It's not the nicest car ever, but it's not the worst car. Yeah. And I think that balance is kind of where I try to usually live in like most aspects of my life, is find something that works. It's decent. Because as you mentioned, if you're replacing something month after month, eventually you've just spent as much money as you could have on the nice pair of headphones instead of replacing the chintzy headphones 10 times. Yeah. Stuff like that. You do have to weigh it out in your head and be like, I spent more money replacing these cheap shoes than I would have on one nice pair of shoes. But that's stuff that you kind of learn as you go as well, and hopefully just figure it out as you get older and don't keep wasting money on stuff.
I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say about shoes. I just realized that it's not really me being frugal. I mean, I've never been like a shoe person. I don't need to have anything super nice. I get, if it's under $100, I'm okay with it, whatever, for shoes. But I I realized the other day, I'm like, I've had these shoes for like almost 4 years. Why? How? And then I realized
That's
I don't
crazy.
go anywhere. Like, I work from home now. I don't have to wear shoes everywhere. I'm not walking outside all the time on the streets. If I'm in my backyard, I'm usually barefoot, and I don't have to I don't go anywhere. My shoes last. Now they are actually kind of wearing out, but that's why I realized how long I'd had them.
Yeah, I only wear shoes if I work out every day, and I put my gym shoes on. And other than that, I only wear shoes if I'm have to go somewhere. Basically, otherwise I'm barefoot, and that's or in flip flops if I have to be. But that's like the way I've always been. Like that was a very Long Island thing. I think that's a very maybe if you have nature around you in any place, you're just kind of I assume if you're in New York City, you're probably not going outside barefoot as much as if you're on Long Island. So, so there's that. But yeah, I think that the one thing I wanted to say in parting, and I'll throw it back to you, Dustin, so you can wrap up your topic and, leave it in a satisfactory place for you is, I will reiterate that my financial advice in this regard is about frugality is simply always living below your means. Like,
oh yeah,
I have always been a believer in living below your means. People living above their means are nuts. I mean, that's like just really, really dangerous. But living at your means, I think, is not a good idea unless you're living at your means means you're living like a working class life or, around there. I don't want people to be a working class and be like, well, I guess I got to be fucking working poor in order to live below my means. That's not what I mean at all. I think that I think a lot of this, and I've said this before on the show, a lot of this comes from my parents getting divorced. And I realized that over time, but I am obsessed with having security. And that was something that seeped into me very early. And I've just been a really fastidious saver of money. When I made $40,000 a year and all the way up from there, I always tried to put away as much as I could. And I could get my own apartment, but I was that's stupid. Just live by yourself. I could do this, but I was that's stupid. And even when things got better for me with Kind of Funny and financially and obviously even better from there with Last Stand, and I started to do bigger things, I still feel like I'm living below my means, and actually doing things to make it so that I don't have to pay for things in the future. I didn't get solar panels for some green vanity thing. I got solar panels so that I can fucking not pay electric bills, I don't want to pay off my mortgage because it's some vain thing. I want to pay off my mortgage so I'm not paranoid about having being thrown out of my house or something for some insane reason. And it reminds me of the Dredge quote, one of my favorite bands, of course. All you need is a modest house and a modest neighborhood. I love that line. And that's always the way I felt. I don't want a mansion. I don't want an ostentatious life. I think that, do I want a bigger house than this? Yes. Do I want more land than this? Yes. But I don't want much more, a little more isolation and a little more space, I think would be the final resting spot. And so I think also having reasonable, seemingly reasonable dreams that aren't, you're not going to become some fucking famous person in an Iron Man mansion in Malibu and do all these kinds of crazy things. I've just never wanted that. And I think that maybe that helps too in your frugality. I've never cared the way people perceive my wealth either, or the money I have or don't have. Right. Very much like the mentality of that Millionaire Next Door book that people like, but it reminds me a lot of San Francisco, and why one of the things I really did dig about San Francisco is that you didn't really know who you were dealing with. So everyone kind of did treat each other with a level of respect at a restaurant or whatever. The dude in the ripped shirt could be a millionaire. The dude in the nice clothes could be doing his best to get into one of these firms or whatever. So I've always just tried to be mindful of that too. And to remind people that money is important, but it's not the be all end all and shouldn't weigh on the way you treat people around you and do all those other things. Living above your means is is totally vain and ridiculous. And I don't know. If anything, I've tried to force myself to do nice things for myself, because I think that it will never be quite enough for me. No matter what I have or whatever, it'll never be enough. I know deep inside of myself. So I try to remind myself that life is finite. Do the nice thing. And I don't know. So anyway, Dustin, where do you stand on this topic as we close?
Yeah, the few closing thoughts I have. Number one, Colin, one area that I have noticed that you are frugal and I am very not frugal is you're very frugal in the technology that you buy, specifically your iPhone. Mm-hmm. I've always thought, I'm like, dude, that's pretty baller. You understand that you get 80% of the functionality, probably more than that, 95% of the functionality with the iPhone SE, and that the whatever double the price of the other one is really I mean, it's nice. I mean, I'm buying that. I
Yeah,
always buy the nicer one, but I understand that it's stupid. But
I have to say, like, I'm not very. I like technologies, but I don't care about them enough to like want to invest. I like my phone with the button on it. Like, it's fine.
We like the buttons.
Yeah, and I like my watch. I just want it to like track my shit. I don't care. So I think that's true, but I also just think that and I appreciate that. And I think people think of it as like a hipsterish thing, but I'm not trying to do that at all. I really just don't give a shit. I was even a late adopter to the iPhone. My first iPhone was the iPhone 4. So, so yeah, I appreciate that comes through, but that's just more of like, I don't know what else I really want from technology. Like, I don't need anything more sophisticated. As long as they keep making this, I'll probably buy this for like the next 10 years.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any other closing thoughts. Just, like you said, living below your means. And I wrote down one thing, and this could be a topic in itself, so I'll just leave this as a closing word, is that one thing about being frugal that really helps me, or not helpful, but I think is cool, is using credit cards to get points, like on Amazon. But that's like, credit cards are interesting because they're like the anti-frugal, in that I'm always shocked about hearing about people that are in massive credit card debt. It's like a very normal thing. I'm sure there are hundreds of people listening to the show right now that have credit card debt, which sometimes it's unavoidable when you're in a bad spot. You need to put money on a card. I totally get that. Sometimes it is avoidable.
No, I would say absolutely most of the time it's avoidable.
It's crazy to me when I hear about people with credit card debt. I'm like, what are you doing spending money you don't have?
Like, if you need a new furnace or something and you have to put that on your credit card, okay.
Yes.
That's understandable debt. But yeah, I use a credit card for every transaction I can, but I never spend money I don't have, and I always pay it off, that month.
Yeah, you could. There's no reason you shouldn't have credit making money for you if you're smart.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a lot of points for things I'll never use them for, just because like my lifestyle is different now than it was whenever I started those cards with points and stuff.
The hotel rewards, dude.
Yeah, I've got
my
some
dad.
with hotel rewards, and yeah, I've got flight points that actually they've probably expired by now because I think those did expire. But anyway, I make credit cards work for me. I don't think one time my Target card, I didn't have it, like I don't know, the connection expired or something, and my $24 purchase that I got 5% off on, I ended up getting a late fee, and I asked them to refund it, and they did. That's the only time I've ever had a balance on a card, though, that wasn't paid off. Yeah.
So closing, that's kind of it. Just think about next time, think about Aldi. I think you're right, Colin, about that some items are, you're talking about the boar's head meat. I agree with that. But if you're making meals, ingredients, the can of beans at Aldi is not going to be any different than
I would agree with you there. Yeah, I would agree with you there. I'm not. There are name brands I'm really into, and products that I think they matter, and then products where I'm not a sufficient enough, consumer of the bean to know, like, is the Goya bean better than the Aldi bean? Or
we eat Publix beans. We're eating Publix brand black beans, which I buy very often. And you know what, Dustin? Shout out to the Benton's brand at Aldi. They have the Benton's
Which
brand.
one is that?
Like, they have like cookies and stuff. They have knockoff Keeblers. Yeah, very good.
Holly and I, this might be too much information, not in a gross way, but your people think I'm crazy. Holly and I once were talking about how there's all the different Aldi brands. We were imagining if they had like come together under the Aldi name and these were actual companies. So we're like Clancy was definitely like an ex-mob guy, and they kind of like push the other companies around. We got the Fit and Active people. They're a little bit, snooty. They're trying to keep things calories down. Love and Fresh, of course, they're kind of in their own lane over there. So, but shout out to Clancy's. That's the one we always talk
Clancy's? About. That's good. And you know what? That Fit and Fresh, they have the fruit leather. That's very good. Fit and Active, whatever you said. They have those fruit leathers.
Isn't Fit and Fresh like one of those?
I think it's one of those dumb podcasts you listen to that I hate.
Well, I don't really listen to that one. I found that one only through Kevin Samuels, because Kevin Samuels was on it. But RIP. I mean, there's no replicating Kevin Samuels, so I don't even bother with that stuff anymore. All right. Ben, let's go to you for your topic. Another one that I'm passionate about and have been more lax about as I've gotten older, much to my own chagrin. So I'm curious what what you make of this topic here. I'll take it. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah. So my topic is being on time or timeliness or however you want to phrase it. And it's more of I just want to have a discussion about it because I don't really know what my opinion on it is. For me, I'm pretty much on time when I need to be on time. I'm even early sometimes. Now, my wife would disagree when I don't want to get up on Sunday morning for church and I walk in the door 5 minutes late. But that's a different story. But back when I had like an office job, I would a lot of times be early, but then there'd be just as many times that I'd walk in 5 or 10 minutes late. But I was also never going home on time. I was staying late. It was a salary job. I didn't feel that compelled to be on time. But as far as like when I want to meet somebody somewhere, okay, a couple minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but I'm probably going to be early. You can be a couple minutes late and that's fine. But like 10 minutes late, I don't know. Seems rude. Unless you let me know. That's whatever. Things happen. But I also thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting that like our culture, the United States culture, by and large, we have like a real obsession with times and what times we meet and what times we do things. But you go pretty much anywhere else in the world, at least anywhere else that I've been and anywhere else that I've been told about. And you say, let's meet about noon. And that could mean maybe 2. I don't know. Like time just isn't as important, and being on time is not as much of a thing, and nobody's ever almost in a rush anywhere but the United States. And I don't know why that is. And so I think it also ties in, and I'll throw it to you guys with the last topic, whereas like I think being frugal is somewhat based on how you grew up, being frugal or not frugal. And I also think that being on time is somewhat based on you when you grew up and how you grew up. My parents were almost never on time for anything. Not because they were like being irresponsible, but because they were so busy. And it really bothered me to the extent that I was insistent that I would always be on time for everything when I got older. And then of course you realize the realities of being an adult and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll be on time, maybe I won't. My wife, I don't think has ever been late for anything in her entire life. Like we'll be going over to my parents for lunch. She's like, we got to go. We got to be there by 1. And I'm like, my parents won't even be like ready till 1:30. Okay. It's fine. Like we aren't late. Like we aren't putting them off. That's like a loose thing. But Emily is like everything. She is on time. If she's not early, she will not be late for anything. To the far opposite extreme of like, even though I like to be on time, she likes to be way, way on time. So I don't know. I was going to throw it to you guys. Obviously the 4 of us work from home now, so we don't have to, other than recording shows and stuff like that at certain times, there's nothing we have to like rush off to other than maybe a doctor's appointment or something like that. But I don't know who to throw it to, but I want to talk about what you think about being on time and how you feel when other people are or aren't on time.
Dustin, why don't you take it away?
Okay, yeah. So this is something I do care about a good deal. I think I'm in the same realm as you, Ben, where I'm married to someone who cares too much about being on time. Where same situation, someone's like their party starts at 6, and at we're leaving the door at 5:50, and I was like, oh, we're not going to be on time. Like it's a party. It doesn't. You don't actually probably want to be the first one to show up. You might just want to roll in later a little bit, but it is being the like being super on time, being late. It obviously this goes in a lot of different ways where I think that there's like an acceptable range, right? If we're like 5 within, for me, 5 minutes, 5 to 10. If you're like, especially it depends on the context too, because if it's like, okay, we're meeting at my house to go somewhere at this time so we can be there at this time. It's like if everyone's waiting on you, you probably want to make sure you're on time for that. So you're not, I guess if your lateness is causing problems for other people, that's when I think is when lateness becomes the biggest issue. Right. But it's tough too, because like you said with your parents, is that I think that the on time people can take it that if someone is late, that it's a disrespect, an intentional disrespect to the person that cares about it being on time. And sometimes that may be true, but I think that it's often unintentional. Like there's certain people that just like the type of person that you got to tell them an earlier time to make sure that they're there. And I would argue that those people do need to be more considerate, but I don't think it's always necessarily like intentional. Like they're like, oh, I don't care, you know? So it is, I think, too, a cultural, an American cultural thing, just because, Ben, you and I have both been to third world countries where time is meaningless, really, where you're going somewhere, the driver of the bus you're in sees a guy he knows, and they stop, they talk for 10 minutes while everyone in the bus is waiting to go somewhere. This instance happened to me in the Dominican Republic where these guys just knew each other. They just stopped and had a quick chat while everyone was waiting. And all the Americans, of course, are like, what are we doing? We need to get going. It's like, no, that's totally normal. You got to roll. And also the people where you're going, they have no concept of you expecting you to show up at a certain time. It's just kind of like, and honestly, it's refreshing in a way as it is frustrating at the same time, where it's like, okay, maybe we do need to chill out a little bit on some of our super strict time frame of things. But I know for me that being would a time miser be a good way to put it, where it's like you're constantly, I'm thinking about, and I guess this doesn't necessarily apply to other people, but I've really gotten strict about scheduling time in certain ways in my life now, where it's like, for example, I almost always have stuff to do for Last Stand in the morning, but I'm like, okay, well, I got to drink coffee. But I know if I don't set a specific time, then I'll end up drinking coffee too long. So I'll set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. And it's like, that's all you get, you know? And so it's kind of can be a good thing and a bad thing. But I like this topic, and I'm curious. I don't know who should we go to next?
Micah, why don't you take it?
Yeah, well, this episode is basically just like a therapy session for me, because time is one of the major sources of my anxiety. The reason being that growing up, my mom made us late for everything. I love my mom, but being late to church every single time. Jehovah's Witnesses have church 3 times a week. That's a lot. And we're late always. And having to march up to the front row, you're 5-10 minutes late. It's embarrassing already. Then you're sitting in the front row of church, social anxiety. This is where all this stuff comes from, right? And then the other thing was being late for school. We lived close enough to the school that we weren't eligible to take the bus, which is stupid, but that's how it worked. But my mom was so paranoid of us getting kidnapped that we weren't allowed to do the 10-minute walk to school. So she'd drive us. But she was late every single day. And I remember getting yelled at, getting sent to the principal's office, being told they're going to, start taking points off my grades because I'm late so often. And it's really dumb when you're 12, because I just wanted to be like, I don't fucking drive, right? Like, you want to talk to my mom about this? Do you maybe want to tell her that I can't be late every day? Because, like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. I don't drive, sir. Like, it was just one of those stupid things as a kid, feeling powerless of like, I literally am getting yelled at every day because my mom can't get me to school on time. I'm ready 15 minutes early. She's not even dressed yet. And then it's just like, and then this dude's yelling at me like it's my fault. And it's like, brother, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't drive. I'm 11. So my anxiety about being on time comes from 12 school years of that. And just finally being like, I won't ever be late for things. And I'm usually not. It is exceedingly rare that I'm late for something. If I am, I'm very sweaty and panicked about it. It'll be something like there was a car accident and I got stuck waiting behind it. And I was already 10 minutes early, but that threw everything off. But in general, I'm always way too early for things. I made a friend date a couple months ago that we were going to go shop at Barnes & Noble together. I got there 15 minutes early by accident because I was so anxious about making her wait. And then when she pulled up, she's like, how long have you been waiting? I was like, just a couple minutes. I'm not going to tell you that I'm crazy. I'm not going to let you know that. The other thing is, though, there's something wrong with my brain, which I think it's what's wrong with my mom, except that she just doesn't try to do anything about it. I genuinely lose track of time as if 30 seconds went by, but it was 10 minutes. Like I'll be reading a book or I'll be like, just cleaning and it feels like it's only been 5 minutes and it's been an hour. That happens to me constantly, which is why I'm constantly checking my watch, setting alarms for myself, because the reality is that I have no sense of time. And I'll tell myself like, that was like a 5-minute shower. And then it's like a half hour's gone by. And it's like, what the hell was I doing in there? It's like, I don't know. Probably got distracted reading the shampoo bottle or but I have just no sense of time, but I'm aware of it. So my thing is that I'm hyper vigilant. I'm constantly trying to counteract my own dumbass brain who thinks that like you have plenty of time to do that. And it's like, I don't think we do. So the reality is that I'm by nature not a very timely person. I'm always like getting distracted by things, getting lost in various activities and realizing that much more time has passed than I thought. I've never been the person to be like, time's going by so slow. It's like the reality for me is that it feels like it's constantly like racing by and I have no idea where it all went. But I have to like be really disciplined to make sure that I am on time for things, appointments, whatnot. It is different now working from home. I don't have to stress about the commute every day to work, which used to be like a half hour to 45 minutes, But when I do have like that random doctor's appointment or something, it's like, oh God, like I'm thinking about a week in advance, what time I need to leave, even though it's only 10 minutes away, or never planning multiple activities in one day. Like I won't say, oh, I'm going to be down here, so I'll make an appointment that's also like 2 things down there. Never, never. Because you can't guarantee the timeliness of one thing. So then you got another thing planned. Can't do it. Can't be done. I'm like, my mind does not work that way at all. I'm not relaxed enough to be like, yeah, let's plan multiple activities. No, no, sir. We're going to do one thing here. We'll drive a half hour to get there. And then next week we'll make another appointment, drive a half hour again to get there. But that's my own,
that's not very
mental
frugal.
illness.
No.
But my car gets 38 miles per gallon. So it evens out. But no, this is actually a funny thing, though, before we talk to Colin about it, is that Colin is generally on time, but he does things that just stress me out, such as I'll say we have to leave at 3:30. We will leave at 3:30, but he'll be in the shower at 3:15. And in my head, it's like Mission Impossible theme music. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to get out of here on time. And we will. But that's where it's like, I don't know how or why he does it. But Colin is like the last minute person. We'll be on time, but we're going to get out the door like at the last minute. You're going to get ready the last minute. And I find that fascinating.
My thing is, do you know how like sometimes you're like looking forward to something, even if you're not like excited about it, you're like looking forward to, okay, wow, that's 3 hours away still till I need to be there. I got plenty of time. And then like, you keep checking and you're like, wow, it's only 2 hours and 59 minutes. I thought that was 10 minutes ago. And then all of a sudden you're like, I have to be there in 4 minutes and I don't have my socks on. Like,
yeah.
I don't really understand that, because it's like, I'll be ready for something way in advance. And it just feels like, I might as well go about my day. It's really far away. And then all of a sudden it's just here. And it's like a time warp.
Yeah, that's my brain if I'm not careful. Because the reality is I tell myself, you got to leave at 3:30. It's 1 PM. I'll put my shoes on. I'm like, that's dumb. Take them off. I'll take them off. And then it'll be like 1:29, like 2:29. I'm like, you got to get out here in 1 minute. Where are your shoes? like it really is, though. That happens to me constantly of my sense of time is so bad that I just get ready very early as opposed to being late and like running out the door. Because otherwise there's just no hope. My brain does not keep track of time like a normal person's.
I find time, I don't really know how my parents treated time. I felt like we were on time for things as a kid, so I don't know if that, we were good, but my whole mantra is just don't inconvenience me and I won't inconvenience you. Like, it's just treat others the way you want to be treated in some sense. And so in professional capacities, like, I try to be very timely. Like, I don't like being late for appointments. I'm not late for appointments. I don't like being late, if you have to go to the dentist or like your therapist or whatever. And in fact, it's so funny because when I went to the dentist the other day, they were saying that they were running behind because someone was late. And so you inconvenience other people. Like, it's just, to me, sometimes like your car breaks down and it fucks everything up. Or I was watching this video of this woman freaking out because the bus driver like wasn't driving for some reason and she was late to work. And it's like, yeah, like sometimes things are beyond your control, but oftentimes people are late because they're selfish. And being late, like knowingly holding someone up, or even not consciously doing it, but nonetheless doing it, I think is like really selfish, in my opinion. If it's like waste your own time, but don't waste my time. And so I say that because I was very timely when I was in my professional journalist career in college. I was obviously you're not going to graduate from college if you're not timely and go to your classes on time and get your papers in on time. No one gives a flying fuck if you go to class. No one cares if you hand in your things in. It's really all on you. So I became very regimented. Plus I'm very OCD about things. And I like the way that that's all set up. But then when I went to Kind of Funny and I realized when we founded it and I was like, well, I'm my own boss now and I'm going to be a little more relaxed with this. And I would like sometimes make us start like a live show a few minutes late, or I would like change a schedule and be like, I'm going to do this instead. And I kind of, that everyone was doing that. We were getting sorted, but I realized that was like a level of selfishness. And then I realized that was starting to seep in when I bought this house, where I'm like, I just kind of want to work out. We'll just record this at another time. And I'm like, that's not really okay to do. And so over the last, I would say, year and a half or so, and I would only do that sometimes. I don't want to make it seem like I was being a dickhead. I just don't like being a dickhead sometimes. So over the last, I would say, year and a half or so, I've just been totally regimented, like on time, ready to go, prepared, like no questions asked, because I just don't like the way it reflects on me treating other people. Like making it seem like everyone should be inconvenienced for the whims of how I feel about what is like an analog time frame of just like everyone experiences. And so I say this as someone who dated someone for a long time that had no regard for clocks. None. Like no regard for jobs, where you had to be with friends, reservations, whatever. It was not cute. It was fucking horrifying to witness in some sense. And like, to the point where you had to like lie about, it's like, oh, our dinner reservation's at 9:00. No, it's not. You know, like I'm telling you that so that like you think that that's the time. And it brings in this weird shit that some people do, including my mom, where they set their clocks at wrong times. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, my mom did that. My mom set the clocks 5 minutes
Do people understand?
ahead.
Do people understand that doesn't make any sense?
It didn't work.
That doesn't make any sense.
It didn't work because she'd be like, it didn't matter to her that she was late in the first place. So it really didn't help except to make me more anxious because I had to look at the clock and then do my own math to figure out what time it actually was.
I'm like, this is nonsense. This is one of the most nonsensical things that I've ever seen someone do. And then I think that there's a difference between, so like so I would say don't be late to your professional appointments. That's my thing. And I get mad when people hold me up with our professional appointments. We are using these cleaners and twice they've been like really late. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to give them a third time. And I'm like, this is not, if you tell me you're going to be here at a certain time, you fucking need to be there at a certain time. I think I'm your customer. We're not like friends. But at the same time, I think sometimes when people are flagrant with their lateness, it's different than when they're just a few minutes later, they're running late or whatever. And I understand that. I didn't get mad, but I was kind of snide to my brother and my dad like a few months ago when they were here. They were at my sister's house and they're like, yeah, we're going to leave in a few minutes and come over. And my sister lives like 5 minutes away. So I was like, all right. And I like stopped doing what I was doing. And they came over 2 hours later. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And they were just like nonplussed. Like, they were like, I don't know. We told you would be here in a little while. I'm like, no, you didn't. You said you were leaving in a few minutes. You should have been here an hour and 45 minutes ago. Like, that's just so disrespectful to other people. So yeah, that's like what I've wrote down is just the idea. But I had to underline in my notes, like the clock set at the wrong time. Like, what are you guys doing, man? Like, just get your lives together. If you need to do that to be on time and you have some weird fucking devil calculus in your mind to try to make that timing work, like, come on, let's end that. Be on time for your dinner reservations. Be on time for your films, your inconveniencing on a lot, shows like in theaters and obviously your professional appointments or whatever. Like if someone wants to go to a movie, this has happened to me several times in my life. If someone's like, we're going to be running late to a movie or whatever, I'm like, I'm not going to that. Or like, we're going to be there just on time. I'm like, not me. I mean, maybe you'll be running in there. That was the reserved seat in the movie theater, which was like revolutionary. I mean, that's still a really kind of a new feature of the movie theater. That changed the whole game for me, but I still don't want to go in before the previews. But if I thought I was going to run in like during the previews, I'm like, I'm not going to that movie. I need to like look at the theater. I need to see where I'm going to sit. I'm not going to be fucking stuck in here and inconveniencing people and being in the middle of the It's like, oh, no, I don't think so. I got to be on the end. All right. Ben, let's throw it back to you. This is your topic. Are you satisfied?
I am satisfied. The only other thing I wanted to say is you said about people having different time frames. I have a friend who I play games with sometimes, and he's like, yeah, I'll be on in a couple.
Is this the friend that I know too?
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's no, that's a different one. Well, I guess I have a couple friends. This particular friend is Cuban, and he lives in a predominantly Cuban area. And when he says in a couple, apparently culturally, that means when I get there. If he says a couple minutes, that literally means a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. But it took me a while to figure that out. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? You tell me you'll be here in a couple, and it's been like an hour and a half. But yes, Dustin and I have another friend that is always very last minute. He's never late, but he's never before the moment, the very minute on the clock that you tell him to be there.
You can't ask for much more than that. I think.
No, you really can't.
No,
but it is nerve wracking sometimes, like Micah was saying with the shower thing. Yeah, I get it. I'm good though. Yeah.
It's just, we live in a society, I think, generally speaking, where people just they're so selfish that they don't think about how their actions affect other people. See, that's why I always say is like, there's a certain virtue in selfishness, like the Randian selfishness of living for oneself. That is different than projecting your choices onto others by virtue of the waves that emanate from everything you do. And you have to be mindful of that. That's like the rank sort of selfishness that is fucked. And that's like the kind of stuff I don't like, whether people are on their phones in movie theaters or whatever, being late, getting up and running down the aisle in a plane, like before everyone gets up to try to get off the plane. It's like, you have to be like, I feel like people like that need to be roughed up or something. Like there should be we should have a secret police force in the United States, but it's not a secret police force for like political crimes or anything like that to disappear you. It's simply to like monitor your socialization. And every once in a while, like you'll just get fucked up by these dudes that like come out of a van because you like left a bad tip for a good server, or you wouldn't get up for a pregnant woman on the train or something like. So you get off the train and some of these guys just beat the shit out of you, and they like leave a little card on top of you. They brand you. How's that?
Yeah, like you treat a service worker bad for something that wasn't their fault.
Right.
Maybe they show. Maybe they just show up and they like see you from a distance. There's a little warning.
Right. It's like cart narcs where you don't know. I always return the cart anyway, but you have to be crazy to watch that show and then be like, I'm not going to return the cart. Like at that point, you have to know that you could be the target. It's the same thing. The people in the van might not see you, like the Ocarina might not catch up with you in time, right? Mm-hmm. But 9 out of 10 times you might get away with it. But that one time, in the back of your mind that it could happen, so you just don't do it at all. That's how we fix society. All right. Micah, let's go to you for your topic.
All right. Well, also a little bit time related.
Yeah, I thought so.
Because my topic is, would you want a death clock? Do you want to know when you're going to die? Because my answer is always yes. And Colin finds that very startling. But it's just, and I want to spin this first because I know, Dustin and Ben, being men of faith, respect that. But I want to spin this to say, for people who have a hope of an afterlife, all right. And you might say, well, I don't care like when I die because like I'm going to go to heaven forever. That's cool. But I want to spin it for like the audience members who maybe would write this off immediately. Your experience on Earth is unique. Your experience on Earth is presumably going to be very different than the heavenly realm afterlife. Your time here is going to be peppered with people who you think aren't getting into heaven, such as myself. So like first and foremost, the time here on Earth is the only time you get with me. That's very important. And then also you got to think about your other friends that you think aren't getting in. So your time on Earth is different. It's unique. I got to imagine there's things in heaven that you probably aren't going to the car wash in heaven. So if you really like that, there's going to be things you miss. Who knows if they have restaurants in heaven? I don't know. Do you eat? We don't know these things. So that sushi restaurant that you're thinking about going to, it's like, well, this might only be a thing I can do here in the physical plane. So I want to spin it that way just to put a little more value on the earthly life for those of us who believe that there's like eternity afterwards. For me, this is all there is, which is fine. But I don't believe that there's anything after this. I think this is what you get. And in saying that, I still would just like, if I could just know when I was going to die, or the comfort of knowing when your loved ones will die, like it's just, for me, that would just be great because I hate the unknown. That's like the biggest source of anxiety is things that can't be known, things that I can't figure out. And it's, there's two ways of looking at it. You should live your life in a way that every day counts and matters. But we also live in a world where most of us work 40 hours a week doing something we don't like, and we're genuinely wasting a whole lot of our life doing that shit. So if I knew I was going to die 2 weeks from now, I sure as hell wouldn't have been working at like UMass Amherst in the IT office if I knew I was going to die in a month. I would have just taken whatever money I had and gone on a nice vacation and lived it up. And it's just the sad thing that we don't know. And that's why you should, in theory, live each day, to the fullest. But it's just limiting factors that keep us from doing that. And there's also those things that, I live far away from my family. In reality, I should visit them more. I hate traveling. It's just one of those things. But it's like, if I knew that they were all going to die in a month, well, I'd be there a lot more. That shouldn't be the case, I know. But it's the facts of life is that my motivation to drive 9 hours to go visit them would be greatly increased if I knew that they were all going to die soon. And so that's kind of where this is at. But also it's for myself. I don't know. I'm not really afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of what's next, but I'm afraid it's going to be bad when it happens. Like finding out that your brain can like still stay alive for a couple minutes depending on how you die. That like really sketched me out a bit. Like that's the one thing I didn't like. I was like, I don't care, if I die, it's whatever. But thinking like, man, you might have a heart attack and you just be like a shell for a couple minutes, completely aware of it, hearing the doctor say like she's gone, like that kind of freaks me out. So just kind of knowing that it was coming. I mean, I'd live my life a bit differently depending. If I knew I was going to live till 90, that'd be I don't know, kind of weird. I don't want to be that old. But that would just be a different path I'd take on how I approach my life. If I literally knew I was going to die next year, I'd have a whole list of things to do immediately. And maybe I still wouldn't do them, but it would also be just my fault. Like I always think of my ex's grandfather really wanted to see Paris. His whole life was, I want to see Paris. Never did it. He finally books a trip to go to Paris. He dies a month before it. And on the one hand, you're like, you should have gone. You were 85 years old. You had a really long time to go see Paris. And then the other hand's like, well, if he knew it was coming, he would have gone. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with this. I'd love to start, though, Dustin, what are you thinking? Where would you feel if you could know if you were going to die or like when you were going to die? Would you want that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll just say, because you brought in the religious aspect. And when you sent this last night, that didn't come into my mind at all. Really.
Oh, see, that's interesting because, and I'll just say this as a former Jehovah's Witness, their whole thing about everlasting life, after death, it really was almost a flippant attitude. Not like you wouldn't do anything to like harm yourself in this life because that'd be disrespectful to God or whatever. But it really was like that scripture of like, what can mortal man do to me? Because I'm going to get everlasting life later. And that was a very strong emotion. Like, it doesn't matter if I get terminal cancer, I'm going to get heavenly life later. And so they had a very different attitude about the earthly realm because they knew they'd have this everlasting life afterwards. But that clearly is going to vary by faith and everything.
Well, I think that there is a huge element where I don't want to say that that's 100% wrong for a lot of people of faith, is that it does make sense that if you do believe and you are confident in your faith, then you should not fear death, right? But I think at the same time that everyone is still human and has human primal fears. And so I think that there is some security for people of faith, but to act, I always personally felt like someone who's like, I'm not afraid of dying. Like, you are. You have been before. There is some element, like, surely, right? Because I feel like even that's the thing about faith, is that you can't know for certain. That's why it's called faith. Like, not that, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to put this the right way. Maybe, Ben, do you know what I'm saying here? Like,
yeah, I mean, I put it, the great late Loretta Lynn, if you remember Loretta Lynn, had a song. I don't know if it was original to her, not that she sang it, but it was basically, I think she was a woman of faith. I'm not sure, but I just know, like, coal miner's daughter, all that stuff. Anyway, she had a song called, where the lyrics were, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And that's me. Like, in my faith, I'm like, yeah, I know there's an afterlife, but I don't want to be in any hurry to get there. Like, I'm terrified of dying, not dying, but the way I'm going to die, probably. Like, pretty good chance either heart attack or cancer in my family. It's not going to be fun, whatever it is. So
right. For me, it's just this element of my faith tells me that it's all going to be all right, but there's always going to be a small part of me that's human. And it's like, but what if I'm wrong? And I think that's kind of a good, healthy way to look at things, as far as your perspective on your beliefs and your faith, is that you're evaluating and constantly affirming or then once again reevaluating in a way. So it's not just like, I think that some people can just be like, it's almost like a defense mechanism. It's like, no, it's fine. It's all going to be fine. I can't even for a second think that it's not true. You know what I mean? But I think that having doubts like that is a good thing, honestly. Or having just that element in the back of your mind sometimes can keep you honest. But to your original question about the death clock, yeah, absolutely not. No, 100% no. Because I take, if I don't want to say I'm a hyper efficient person in everything I do as far as like work and stuff. But I do have a tendency, especially these last, 5 or 10 years, where I've gotten more conscious of how I spend my time, and efficiency of that is creeping in certain ways, where I think about, and it's not all, it's a lot of it's positive, where I'll be sitting and looking at my phone for half an hour, and I think, that's a half hour I could have played Final Fantasy, or wasted my time in a way that was actually enjoyable, and not something that I just in 30 minutes, I'm like, why did I just do that? So I imagine if I knew when I was going to die, that weird efficiency part of my brain would kick in and drive me insane and ruin the time I had left, where I'd be like, well, I got to do this. I can't spend there can be no wasted time, because I know I got to plan this out. I got to go here.
Also, knowing when you die doesn't speak to the quality of the life that you're going to live.
That's true too.
You could be alive as a vegetable for 30 years. I mean,
you could
and get that wrong information. So yeah. Ben, what do you think? I'm sorry, Mike, did you have more?
No, I was just going to say, what was the woman's name? Terry something?
Oh, Terry Schiavo.
Yeah, Terry. Yeah. And that was a whole big case when I was a kid of she was, brain dead for several years before they finally pulled the plug. And it was, technically alive. Technically.
Yeah. So that's, Ben, what do you think about this?
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd want a death clock. I mean, there's certain parts of it that are appealing, knowing like, okay, sure, well, I need to prepare this much for my kids to be able to, get through, and my wife and kids to be able to get through until they're grown or whatever, like things like that would be helpful to know. Like, I don't have very much time left. I need to put things in order. But I think knowing when I was going to die would make me an incredibly, I think we're all a little selfish, but an even more selfish person, because I would be like, well, don't really have time for that, because I'm going to die in 4 years. So screw you, guy I barely know, even though you need a friend. Like, I tend to be somewhat, I don't know the right word, like insular anyway. Like, it's not like I'm going out doing things for people all the time, but I do sometimes. And I have friends that I very rarely see, that when I have the opportunity, we get together. But I have a feeling like if I knew, like, okay, well, I've only got a few years left, I want to do all this stuff, some of it wouldn't be like, it would change the way I treat people, basically. It would change the way I pay my bills and how those people are treated. Like, it would change a lot of things for me. But also, I think the biggest reason for me is just anxiety. I'm a pretty anxious person, not in the traditional anxiety way. I don't have much social anxiety. I don't have much of any of that. But like, I think about something in the future and I'm like, oh, that might be bad. Like, I think about like, oh, my parents are in their early 50s, but I'm like, well, my parents might, they're going to die. That makes me anxious. I can't imagine that knowing when I was going to die wouldn't make me even more anxious and make the quality of my life up to that point even worse. So yeah, no, I wouldn't want a death clock. I could see the advantages though, but I don't want them.
Yeah, there's no way for me that I would want this at all. I mean, this is an easy answer for me. Although I do acknowledge that it would be some sort of interesting gamble for some people because you could get really good news, or at least irrelevant news, right? You're going to die when you're 97. It's like, all right, I'll worry about that later. But that's to the point of you could have fucking been a body cast for 30 years. I don't know. It's just knowing the date isn't sufficient. And then, of course, you could get really bad news or like imminent news too. I was thinking though of like a Black Mirror episode or something. This is I think a good idea. I don't know if anyone's ever done it, where the synopsis would be something like, you can somehow figure this out, like when you're going to die. But then like a dude becomes obsessed with getting to that date and getting past it. Like, how could he avoid calamity in all ways to, on that date, be in like complete safety, and how it could all go wrong or whatever. That would be pretty interesting. And he would still die or whatever. But yeah, for me, no, I have no interest in knowing when I'm going to die. I think that would be a horrible thing. That would ruin my life, like what I had left of it. And yeah, I don't know. There's not much more for me to say about that particular topic, just because I would find that what people said is just like, that would be a terrifying prospect of knowing with certainty that you were going away on this certain day. I would fixate on it for the rest of whatever I had. And I'm the kind of guy, I think about things in dark ways sometimes. Like, if you have cancer or something and you're going to die, or they give you like 6 months, or they give you a year. And so like you go through the month of July and you're like, that's my last July. Right. And then you get to like August 15th. You're like, this is my last August 15th. And I'd be like that. I would totally. And then this is your last Sunday. This is your last first of the month. This is your last Sunday. I would be so wrapped up in that shit, man. It would ruin everything. So I think, and that's why I think we've talked about it on the show in the past, that humans don't think about it. Like it's unusual. It's a feature of what we would consider some psychological or psychiatric illnesses to be fixated on dying. And there's just something about it where we just don't worry about it. We worry about it in major ways. Like, you don't jump off a fucking cliff. You don't you get and wrestle on a concrete, like little things like that. But generally speaking, like, you don't think about it. And I think that's just the best way. Like, I think humans knowing that kind of information it's bespoke and shouldn't be known. And I also think that we're probably a little early generationally, but we're a few generations away probably from death being an option. And at that point, I think that it becomes even crazier about knowing like when you would go away. I think that with enough means and mode in 100 years, you can put yourself in a server and live forever if you wanted to. So
yeah, I guess one other thing I thought of, Micah, was that I almost was thinking that I don't know if this is normal, so I guess I can ask you guys and we can find out if I'm normal or not. As I approach my 30th birthday, which I don't think that is it's nothing about that specific number. I think it's just my time on Earth, is that I'm not the type of person that's obsessed with death and then negative obsession where it's like you can't stop thinking about people dying or your own death or something like that. But it definitely has crept in a lot more in the last 5 years, me thinking about those things. It's like, well, the thing always for me is that I think, okay, so I think about the first 20 years of my life and how that felt like a pretty long time overall, right? Or even just from we'll do 10 years, from age 10 to age 20. You think like, wow, that was a really, really long time from get to point A to point B. And then you think about age 20 to 30 and you think, wow, that took zero time at all. And in theory, let's say that as you get older and you have a year means less and less to you every year you're alive, right? I'm like, well, by the rule of, if this goes exponentially, then shit, my life's like 75% over in a way, is something that I have recently thought about. I'm like, well, it's only accelerating from here as far as time dilation. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a separate issue or a separate thing than the death clock thing. But that just is an example of how that would just add to the anxiety of them. Like, well, shit, even if it is 50 years away, that's going to feel like no time based on how these last 10 years have gone, So
yeah, that's very true. I find it interesting, like the level of like academic thought, that you guys brought to the table, because like when Colin's like, picture this Black Mirror episode, but my whole thing for this episode was I think you should leave, and it was like Tommy Doo Dinkins pancaked by a dump truck driver, and I'm like, but I want to know when it's happening, right? Like, I want to know. And I think the biggest thing, less than knowing when I myself would die, but the biggest thing would be if we just all had these and they were known to your family. Like, I don't want to say it, but I have to. It's like knowing when my parents are going to die would take a lot of anxiety away, because for me, it's the unknown is what drives my anxiety of like, it could be literally any day. I could wake up tomorrow and get a call that one of them died. It could be today. Like, it literally could be any time. It's not likely to be. That probability kind of goes up the older you get. But it's one of those things of like, yeah, that anxiety. I'm not someone who's fixated on like dying, but
sure,
it probably comes up in my brain more than the average person. But it's just because things that I can't know really bother me. And those are the things that like rattle around when I'm trying to go to sleep at night or whatever. And it's like, that's the type of stuff that gets stuck in my brain of I can't figure it out. So what if we could know? And I tell myself that would just be like solving all the problems, but probably would have some adverse effects. Like you guys mentioned of, well, if I find out I'm going to die in a year, that's not a lot of time to get a bunch of stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just one of those. I think it also came up more as I think about the decision to have children or not. And I am terrified of the idea of having a kid and dying, or like even that they're like 10. Just that thought of having some kid whose mom died, like, terrifies me, almost to the point where I say I just wouldn't want to do it at all for the possibility that I might not, live long enough to see them grow up. It's like that, and not even for like myself, but for them. So I think that's a big part of why this has been in my mind a lot lately as I'm approaching 30, as I'm getting married this year, and the kids topic keeps coming up. We're at a cookout recently, and everyone's asking me when I want kids, blah, blah, blah. And it's like the reality is that part is less so on the discussion and more so like, I'm just afraid I'm going to die and leave them alone. But it is. I still think I would want one. You guys made some convincing arguments. I still think if I had a choice, every one of you would have a little digital clock on your forehead and I'd know when you were going to die, just so I'd feel better, But I agree with your motivations against it, because I can see where it would cause problems. I would still totally want it, though. It's still something I would be like, totally. If I met a genie right now and you could tell me when I was going to die, and then he could also give me like a corn dog and teach me how to whistle, I'd take all those three things. That would be it.
Fair enough. I think it's an interesting topic. I just I don't know. You have some of the more weird takes with the ethereal things, the genies, and like you said, I don't even want to get into it right now. All right, final topic. This will be an easy and breezy one for us. I wanted to talk about. We talked about ketchup, I think, specifically on one of the episodes, but I wanted to get your guys' take on like how you would order your favorite or least favorite condiments. And I'm not even really sure that I can narrow it down to what a list of condiments would be. I have this: ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, salsa, hot sauce, soy sauce. What else would go on that list?
Aioli.
I mean,
aioli's kind of like mayonnaise, though, right?
Yeah.
It's different mayonnaise.
Relish.
Relish.
Oh, relish.
Yeah,
That's
relish
one, yeah.
is, I guess, one.
Barbecue sauce.
You got barbecue sauce?
Yeah,
oh, that should have been number 2 or 3.
See, like there's all these other offshoots. Like you could go into like every kind of dressing if you really wanted to.
Right.
I
Like,
don't
would
think
you
want to
like
get that-
Thousand Islands or?
Yeah.
But they put it on burgers.
Yeah.
That's the special sauce.
So I'll write that down, and then what else? Like,
Well, I mean, you got to put mustard on the list. It's a common.
mustard is
condiment.
on the list. It was the second thing I said.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't expect you to say it.
Just act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, like I can't just pretend it doesn't exist.
Well, I thought
wish
you were
that it
giving
did.
me your list at first, so I was only listening for like, yeah, that sounds good.
No, I just was thinking of like. So let me kick it over to you, Dustin. Like,
Yeah.
I guess we don't have
God.
to go into all of them, but like, what are the greatest condiments? Like, what are the essential condiments? What are the condiments that you could do without? The accoutrements that you could do without. Let's keep it there.
Ben already knows where this is going.
It's gonna be
I
a train
don't
wreck.
overall like condiments pretty much at all. As the audience very well knows at this point, I can't do the ketchup at all. We don't need to break that down again. But for me, it's not, no ketchup, no mustard, no relish, none of that. In fact, the only condiments I'm going for, first of all, number one, barbecue sauce. That is the top tier. Now, before some fucker in the comments like, well, they use ketchup to make barbecue, it's enough removed for me. You don't get
Barbecue sauce is like so overpowering. I'm so surprised that you like that, but not the more subtle ketchup.
I don't like things that Ben and I once had a long conversation, I think at like late night at PAX or something about this, where we determined that the thing for me is I don't like vinegary things.
Oh.
And that's where the ketchup comes in. I can't,
Now I have to ask you this question, Dustin.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever had ketchup?
not in a very long time.
Because I asked you one time why you didn't like pickles, and you said I've never had one, and I said
You've never had a pickle?
That's where that conversation was.
I can't,
That's
here's the
insane.
thing.
That's crazy. Wow.
If I smell something and I hate the way it smells,
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to put
understand.
it in my mouth.
I understand
I
that.
get that.
I just don't.
I've been there, Dustin.
I know this, this is something to think about. So, so let's see. What did I say? Barbecue sauce. Oh, I don't know where to put this, but Holly. So I always break down the topics with Holly the night before I'm on Constellation, just because I'm curious of her input on some of these things. She helps me pick my topic. She said you got to mention the Chick-fil-A sauce because it's primo. It's a 10 out of 10 sauce. The Chick-fil-A sauce. I buy it multiple bottles at a time, so you got to make sure you have backup on deck. I don't know what that is because I think it's technically a mustard base, but it's like super sweet, savory. So I don't know where that fits in. And I also don't like mustard. So again, this is the same thing where it's enough removed. People can call me a hypocrite. That's fine. I do like hot sauces a good deal, but I don't go for them all the time. And then here, so let's talk about your favorite, Colin, the mayo.
Yeah.
Right? Mayo is inoffensive to me, but I am never going to put it on anything. If I got something and it has mayo on it, I'll allow it. It's not like if something has ketchup or mustard, that's a no-go for me. I'm not even going to touch it. My lips will not even get close. The mayo, we can make that work. Now,
never my lips will touch it. What was that, Ben? Wasn't there like a prohibitionist? You would be the only person that would know what I was talking about.
Yeah,
there was like an
there
old
was.
prohibitionist like cartoon where it was like, never my lips will you touch if you, it's something like that. But
Yep.
that's Dustin with mustard. And that's me too, by the way.
one last comment, and then people can. I'll spare people from my food takes here. Is that the Chipotle mayo is the ultimate, and I will go for that. Chipotle mayo. They've got that down at this place that we love here in Butler at the Chop Shop. They have a Chipotle mayo you can get on your burgers and stuff. That shit rules. I'm a big fan of Chipotle mayo. And we mentioned the aiolis too, as well. I like that, but so yeah, I'm not a sauce man overall, but I do like barbecue very much.
I think I don't know. Like to me, I share, and I won't even get into it on my own thing because because people know it's like going on for years and years about this, but I share your version of mustard. I just can't even believe that people eat mustard. Like it's mustard.
Why is it so yellow? Why?
It's any of it. It's just because people are like, I'm a Dijon. Yeah, it's like, dude, I don't want. And just what are you doing with this nonsense? Like, what are you doing? We don't need any of this. So I totally share your version with mustard. I am interested in getting you. You should try ketchup. I wonder what you would think of it. Like, I wonder what you would earnestly just think of it. It's really not. That's like such a. I'm not one to judge people. My palate is limited too. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying ketchup is like a probably top 3 or top 5 American classic flavor. You know?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Colin.
Exactly. That's exactly
Heinz
right. That's
ketchup.
So I mean, right, exactly. It's in your blood.
Yeah.
It's in your very blood.
None of that Hunt's bullshit. That's a big thing around here. If someone sees Hunt's, they're like, get that shit out of here. I'm poisoned.
Well, and when you said it's vinegary, Hunt's is the vinegariest ketchup you can buy. I don't mind it because I do love vinegar. Like, I'm a salt and vinegar chip type person. But Hunt's ketchup is extremely vinegary. And if that was like the only one you'd tried, I would totally get it. Because like, it's strong. But Heinz ketchup, none of that.
Yeah, it really does come down to scent. For me, when I can smell people's ketchup on fries and stuff.
That's so interesting. I don't even know what ketchup really smells like, I guess. I never really thought about it.
It's like vinegary, man.
Yeah, I guess so. I just don't even, I'm nose blind to it. Ben?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask Dustin real quick. Have you tried mustard? Now I just have to know if you've tried these things you don't like.
Mustard. Mustard is another smell for me. Very distinct smell that I'm not into. I have had
just imagine if you start tasting these things and you're like singing A Whole New World from Aladdin. Like, you're like, I didn't realize these actually tasted so good. I feel like that was sauerkraut, where I'm like, I don't want to eat this, but then I eat it and it tastes great but it smells bad.
It smells so bad.
But I like the taste.
Sauerkraut is a no.
Heinous.
Yeah. It is heinous. It is. It's like, absolutely not. Do I want anything to do with sauerkraut? But I have to give a shout out, by the way. I haven't had it in a long time because I'm a Heinz man, no doubt. I vacillate between Duke's and Hellman's / Best Mayonnaise. I was on like a Duke's kick for a couple of years. Now I'm back to Hellman's again. Similar to how I like vacillate between Pepsi and Coke, but I've kind of just been with Pepsi for a few years now. I'm just kind of staying put. But shout out to Trader Joe's ketchup. That stuff's pretty good. It's just the problem is that it comes in such a small bottle that, excuse me. What's going on? I'm choking on ketchup. For a consumer like me, I can go through a bottle like that in a few days, like a week. But it was cheap. It was like $1.99, but I haven't been to Trader Joe's in a long time.
Question.
Yeah.
Very important that I know, Colin, you can answer. What's going on with Miracle Whip? I know that's not mayo. Oh. My dad's a big fan of the Miracle. He would lather that shit up on sandwiches that's like a 1/4 inch thick, on there. And I just don't know what even is that. It's
fucking gross. It's like it's a type of dressing. My stepfather, my mom's husband, really loves Miracle Whip too. And you were asking, Ben, it was funny because it's like you were grilling. Dustin does he has he had the mustard? Has he had the ketchup? I've never gone out of my way to have these things. I've had them on accident, and that's how I know that I don't like them. Like, mustard will sneak in by the goalie every once in a while, and I immediately know. People in the past have many times been like, tried to sneak in and I'm like, there's fucking mustard in this. Like, I'm not stupid. I can taste it. Miracle Whip was the same thing. I was at my friend's house. We always grew up with Hellman, so I was really eager. I thought it was just mayonnaise. You see the commercials for it and shit. So I remember slathering it on a sandwich and then like having it with like bologna or something. I was like, this is horrible. And it really imprinted on me like forever. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't want anything to do with it, but that's not mayonnaise. It's a trick. It's a trap.
I'm looking at the ingredients right now. Soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, vinegar, modified cornstarch, eggs, salt, natural flavor. Apparently it was originally developed to be a cheaper alternative to mayonnaise. Yeah, so it's literally the cheap shit if you like mayonnaise. So,
I wasn't really grilling Dustin as much as I realized that I felt betrayed whenever I learned that I just accepted for many years that he didn't like pickles because he had them. And then he said one day that he had never eaten one. And I was like, oh, no, I feel like I've been lied to. He didn't lie to me. I just felt like I'd been lied to. So now I'm realizing, like, Dustin says he doesn't like these things. But I have to know if he actually knows if he likes them. But I understand his argument of not liking the smell and therefore not wanting to taste it. I just disagree with it. Yeah,
the whole olfactory thing is all connected. I get that too. It's the reason. It's my aversion to like people love their stinky cheeses and stuff, and I'm like, no way. Like red wine, like I said, I'd like to understand it, but red wine smells bad, nonetheless tastes bad to me. So I understand as well. I'm not judging. I guess I've been so ketchup has been. I can't even imagine how much ketchup I've eaten in my life. It's probably heinous if you were able to measure it. And so I've just been around it so much that I don't even think I realized that it had any sort of like aroma at all. That's interesting.
Yeah, okay. So I have a question for you guys as we're talking about. Well, I don't even think this is a condiment. I'm still gonna bring it up. Fuck it. Have you guys ever had like the marshmallow fluff before?
Oh yeah, fluffing it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would like to
Marshmallow
have.
fluff's the best.
Holly was watching a YouTube video that had. It was like the going through a timeline of the creation of different like grocery store products, and one of them was the marshmallow fluff, and they mentioned the fluffer nutter, and I thought that sounds fucking delicious. I need to.
Yes.
Like in a mountain pie.
Oh, wow! A mountain pie with peanut butter and the marshmallow fluff. That sounds like it'll kill you
in like 15 years or longer. But yeah.
I'd like to try this. I'm gonna have to try the humble fluffer nutter someday.
Nutella.
That was a staple growing up. Honestly, though, fluffer nutter was my go-to sandwich as a kid because I didn't like PB&J. So we always had peanut butter and fluff. You also use it to make fudge. That's like a Massachusetts classic. But like throughout high school, whenever I'd bring a lunch to school, it was fluffer nutter almost always, or SpaghettiOs in a thermos. But that's another story. But fluffer nutter, absolute must. I was really happy to find it here actually when I moved here because I thought it'd be something I wouldn't get this far south. And when I saw it at Publix, it was in the ice cream aisle, so they don't know what to do with it. But I was happy it was here nonetheless.
Ben, where are you on the condiment? The question of the condiment.
Yeah, I pretty much can enjoy any condiment. I'm not a very picky eater as far as flavors. I'm a picky eater as far as textures. So like things that I think are slimy, I don't particularly enjoy. But as far as flavors, I like all different kinds of condiments, but I only like them like on specific things. Like hand me a hot dog and put mustard on it, I'm not eating it. I'm sorry. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
Hot dogs are for mustard, not for ketchup. Like I see people, eating hot dogs with ketchup, and I'm like, no.
I put ketchup and mayonnaise on my hot dogs.
Yeah, that's disgusting. But that's fine.
Mayonnaise on the bun, and then
that I can understand.
Yeah, mayonnaise on the bun, and then ketchup on top of the dog.
A little cheese on there.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of the quantity of ketchup that tends to be there. Like ketchup seems to go further than mustard does. I don't know, but like on a hamburger, I like ketchup, but I'm not really a big fan of mustard.
Yeah, mustard is weird to me on a burger.
On a hamburger. So I can eat. So good. I can eat and will enjoy pretty much any condiment. But if you put it on the wrong thing for me, that's where I get a little goofy with it, I guess.
A little silly.
Silly.
Getting a little nutty with it.
Now, I will say I like sauces a lot. Like Brandon, our buddy Brandon and I will oftentimes commiserate over sauces. Now, he goes way further than I do, where he will get like 10 sauces of different kinds and pour them all into one. I don't do that. Like, give me the different sauces. But like when I go out for wings or something like that, I like to get like multiple different sauces and check them out. I would rather have fewer wings and more sauces if I really had my choices there.
I got to butt in here about Brandon real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
This is a man who loves the sauce so much that multiple times at parties, I've seen him where he's our one friend makes like a special salsa type dip that has all this fresh vegetables and stuff in it. He'll be nice. He'll be getting some chips, or whatever, eating it. And at some point in the night, I think he realizes everyone has been satiated. They've had enough of the salsa / dip, whatever it is. He'll just put that shit in a bowl and scoop it up and just eat it straight up. I've seen him do that with that, and I've seen him do it with queso.
Yeah.
This is a man who knows what he wants and just goes for it. Screw the delivery method. We don't need chips. Dude, when he eats fries, he'll get instead of getting the little ketchup cup, he'll just get a lid and just completely saturate the lid with ketchup. And then you see the fries. He has to get multiple fries at once, because if you get multiple fries at once, you can kind of use it as a scoop. And he'll just scoop. The fries are merely a light delivery method for the ketchup. This man, I find it disgusting, but as I said earlier, this is a man who knows what he wants, and he goes and he gets it, and I appreciate that about him. So Ben, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but that was important for me to get out about Brandon.
Yeah, I didn't really have much else to say, just that I like all condiments. I guess somebody could probably find one and I'd be like, no, I don't like that. But as far as I'm thinking, I like pretty much any condiment. It just really depends on what they're on. They're very situational for me. I don't want just like a bunch of different things on whatever. Like I feel like things go with different palates, different tastes, different flavors for me, and enhance them rather than just cloud them.
Where do we stand? We were talking about kind of we're about salsa and queso. Let's bring up guacamole. Where do we stand on the Mexican, Hispanic, Tex-Mex, Southwestern? This is probably, in my opinion, outside of the classic Americana, the strongest. That like Mexican food is so strong, actually, that it's, and I know that it's strongest when it can. I know that there's like traditional Mexican food, so like there's traditional Chinese food. I'm really talking about like Tex-Mex and like the crossover that happens. Like burritos, for instance, were invented in California. I'm talking about that kind of stuff. There's just such an array of salsas and sauces and guacamoles and all these things, and they just all seem to work. I very rarely encountered something in that world that I didn't want. They use some weird cheeses that I don't like, some stinky cheeses, and they can, the fish tacos and all the things that I wouldn't want, like seafood. But generally speaking, they're just killing it over there. So where are we with salsa? Where are we with guacamole? All of these things.
I have to agree. I have to agree with you, Colin, in that this is an area that I'm more open. I think about our local Mexican place, Reyes Teca, shout out. And they have like this delicious green sauce that you can put on top of different things, whether it's tacos or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's delicious. And I got to shout out too this new recipe I've been doing. I made it a few weeks ago, actually. Ben, you were over, the Al Pastor taco, which isn't really a sauce, but it's chicken in a form of a sauce. Technically marinated,
jus, as it were.
Yeah, Mike, I got to give you this Al Pastor recipe if you're into grilling. I've been grilling these Al Pastor tacos. Shit is fire. So I'm into that. I gotta agree on the Mexican food, Colin.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there that I don't miss very much about California at all. In fact, I could never go back to California again and be totally fine. But the Hispanic influenced food is everywhere, and it's really good. It's just a way of life there, and I do miss that because it is different here. There are some good spots here, but it's not as endemic. Like there were 5 places I could throw a rock at for my place in Santa Monica where you get like a good burrito, good tacos, good stuff like that. It's just a little different here, but shout out to that. Michael, let's hear from you. Where are you on the condiment front? I mean, we have so many selections here from the stalwarts, the ketchups, the mustards, the mayonnaises, to the vaguely ethnic, like the queso and the salsa, let's say. And then you have like kind of your secondary things like your relish, your Thousand Islands, and so on and so forth. I'm curious what and something that I know you have a passion for, and I don't mean this in a sexual way, is pickles.
Oh yeah.
You like pickles. I love how your face got really concerned there for a second.
Well, because I thought you were going to say the ketchup pre-cum. Because that is a thing I enjoy, but that's different.
You also like the ketchup pre-cum, but you're a fan of pickles. But what you and I are a little different. I like a dill pickle. I think they're fine, but I actually like bread and butter pickles.
No.
And that's a kind of a more rare pickle, and I haven't had one in years. But on a burger, I really like bread and butter pickles. Generally speaking, I don't need pickles. Like when I get Chick-fil-A sandwiches, I don't get pickles. When I get burgers from McDonald's, I don't get pickles on them. So that's an option to talk about too, because I know that you have a passion for the pickle, literally. So go ahead and talk to me about this.
Well, yeah, first I want to read a scripture. A man without the sauce is lost, but a man can also be lost in the sauce. Yeah. I just want to start off with that, talking about Brandon. Sir, please find the light. Too much sauce. Too much. I got to give a shout out actually to Aldi's. All right, the Berman's brand ketchup, quite good. Quite good. Now, ketchup's my favorite. It's always been my favorite. Put it on a lot of stuff. As a kid, I always put it on broccoli, which everyone always made fun of. Put it in chocolate milk. It enhances the chocolate flavor in a way that I can't describe. But I've always loved ketchup. That's like my favorite. It's so good. If you don't have any other sauce, ketchup.
Wait,
ketchup
did my brain just die? Did you say something about chocolate milk?
Yeah, you put the ketchup in the chocolate milk, and it really like it. You know how they say like coffee.
She does this just like a reaction.
That's why
you are trolling.
You can call up my 5th grade table mates. All right, you got Taylor Lively.
You were the kid. You were the kid at the lunch table. They're like, hey, put mustard on the cookie, and then you ate it.
No one told me to do this. No one told me to do
Oh.
Do you
this.
still do it?
No.
Then it was not real.
Because I don't drink chocolate milk
It
anymore.
was a fifth grade
I'm
thing. It
lactose
doesn't
intolerant.
count. It doesn't count.
I mean, I would do it if I could drink chocolate milk without shitting it all out, but but so ketchup, very special to me.
Gross.
It happens.
It does.
Yeah.
You know,
I live
Dustin
with someone
knows.
who's lactose intolerant. Sometimes it's got to come out quick.
Sometimes I just can't resist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ketchup, fantastic. Put it on everything. Recently, you know, a little bit of a controversy on Twitter because I was dipping my tortilla chips in ketchup. People didn't like that. But you dip the thing about frozen pizza is I always dip that in ketchup. So you got your Red Baron
understand that
pizza.
one. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So ketchup is an all-star. Love it. Next in line, barbecue sauce. Burger King had the best barbecue sauce. Wendy's is close. McDonald's is third. All right. If I'm cooking at home, it's Sweet Baby Ray's.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I love barbecue sauce. That's a must-have. And one, you guys never mentioned this one, cocktail sauce. I love cocktail sauce. Have since I was a kid.
What is that?
Delicious. You
I
know,
don't
it's
actually
that
know what
red
it is.
sauce. I think it's horseradish, right? Like
Yeah, I think
in
that's what
something.
it's like. Something that differentiates it. It looks kind of like ketchup.
Because it does, and it's not ketchup. Well, I don't know actually what cocktail sauce is, like what a cocktail sauce, but I always love shrimp. I love seafood. And so cocktail sauce is an absolute favorite of mine. Oh, it says it's ketchup or chili sauce mixed with horseradish. Is that really all it is?
Probably.
Well, that'd be that. No, that's not really a surprise then, right? Because that's delicious. That is something actually as a kid I used to just eat that plain. That was my one thing like that because I do have a texture thing where you can't have too much of a sauce or it gets gross. And it's actually the main reason I don't like mayonnaise is that it's the texture. I call it sandwich pudding because it is. It's too thick. It's something I don't like that. The flavor is almost non-existent, but that texture, I don't want my sandwich to be slippery. It's too much. But I also don't put anything on sandwiches. That's the other thing. I want salads, no salad dressing. We're going in dry, all right?
Oof.
So I don't
like
need
the
any of
pillow.
that dressing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't need that. That's not for me. Behind cocktail sauce, I gotta be honest, I like yellow mustard. Now, I would never say this, to Colin for fear that I, don't get married later this year, but I love mustard like on a hamburger from like McDonald's, or Wendy's. You get a Wendy's Junior hamburger. All right, there's no cheese. It's got the ketchup and the mustard, flawless. I can never recreate it at home though. Like, I don't know what it is. It never tastes the same at home, and I've tried. I've tried many times to get that right. I stopped trying only because it just never was quite the same. Their mixture of ketchup, mustard, the pickle juice, whatever it is, it's never replicated at home. But I don't like mustard on anything else. Like, I don't want mustard on pretzels or a hot dog. Hot dogs are for ketchup and onions, butter toasted bun. All right, we're getting juicy now. But mustard has a place.
Butter.
I do like it in some contexts, but it has to be at a restaurant. They have to put it on for me. Otherwise, maybe I'm putting too much. Maybe I'm putting too little. I don't know. But those are my favorite condiments. Like Dustin, there are some things I've never tried just based on smell, like tuna fish. I've never eaten tuna fish in my life. It smells horrible. Mm-hmm. Would never dare. But there are things I might like that I'm afraid to try, like relish. I love pickles. I eat pickles all the time, but I'm afraid to try relish, which is weird.
Where's
but
the
it
fear
seems
coming
different from a pickle.
Yeah, what are you scared of?
Well, I don't know. Like, what is it? It's pickle and it's not.
It's pickles.
Just put a pickle on it.
It's like
You want a
someone chewed
pickle
up
on
a
your hot
pickle.
dog.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. Like, you want a hot dog with a pickle on it. I got a whole jar of those, but like, why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, I don't know.
Pickles
I'll
on hot
probably
dogs
never
are
try
good,
it.
actually.
Yeah.
Like the full, like the spear. That's like a
Like a Chicago style dog.
Greg was like, always would order Portillo's. They would, send you everything and then you make it yourself. And it was actually really fucking good. I mean, that was like really, really good eating. That place was awesome, Portillo's. I've only been to one though. That was it was in LA actually, which was weird because I think they're mostly in the Midwest.
Yeah.
You had brought up butter, which I love butter.
Oh, yeah, but not real butter for me,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
no, yeah. It's
I mean, as a kid, it was Country Crock.
The tub,
man.
right?
Loved Country Crock butter. I would come home from school. I'd grab a piece of wheat bread, put some Country Crock on it. That'd be my after-school snack. Just a classic
sounds
spaghetti
great.
sandwich with Country Crock on wheat. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We were
You
totally.
couldn't
My
make
family
anything
was
better
just
than that.
anti-margarine of any kind. Like we just went all in on butter. I love Breakstone
Well,
butter, and like I like whipped butter. I'll eat stick butter, that's fine, but my favorite is the whipped butter that you buy, like a little bit more expensive. That's what I'm saying. Like you spend a little bit more, but you get that Breakstone quality. You know,
that's the thing. And I cook with butter, because that does taste the best. But for myself, I'm making toast. It's Smart Balance low sodium because it's the best non-dairy butter that I have tried, of which I've tried many. And that's my favorite one as a butter connoisseur because a lot of them are gross. But I do miss like the Country Crock days. I miss keeping the tub and using it for leftovers. You got to open 3 tubs to find the actual butter. That's always kind of a
rotten
fun.
casserole in this one. Like, I thought it was
Exactly.
butter.
Like, this one had lasagna in it.
The tubs just absorbed crumbs too. You try to tell people like don't try to, you got to be careful. But then if you open it up next time, you see someone's crumbs in there, you're like, you got to extract it out.
Right.
Throw that part
I'm
away.
very careful about
Definitely.
crumbs. Colin's not. I was surprised that Colin doesn't care about the crumbs in the butter. But like, I am very like, I see a crumb in there, I got to like extract it.
I don't
like,
leave
we're on a
anything
mission.
heinous in there, but I'll leave like some crumbs in it. Yeah, I mean, it is
A lot of crumbs.
I don't think I would dispute the description of a lot of crumbs. I don't think that that's true at all.
Just strike that from the record.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to
It
strike
was
from the
not
record.
a
I'm just
lot.
disputing it. I mean, it can be on the record. I'm just disputing whether it's true or not.
All right, put it back on the
Put it-
record. The lady's typing as fast as she can.
I always think about that when I see them. It's like, why do we need stenographers like that? Why do we even need that? I don't understand.
We do have
like
audio.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just run that all through AI. Like, literally just record it and run it through AI and have it transcribed. I understand needing that.
Well, it's not that
50 years
reliable
ago.
yet.
It just seems weird to me that like you would think you would want someone to do this after the fact, right? But I do like how they call them on there. They call like, what did they do? Can you read back what was just said? And if I imagine they were just making it up,
Right.
You have to like pull up the paper. All right, for me, I'll wrap this up by saying ketchup dominant, mayonnaise dominant, salsa. Just want to underline again, I don't eat salsa very much, but I really love salsa. And I love all kinds of salsa. I like the cheap shit that you buy, like the Tostitos stuff. I love the fresh, salsa that you buy in like the fridge section or the freezer section. Not freezer section, but like, where the eggs are and all of that. What would you call that? The fridge? I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, refrigerated
The egg section. Yeah, where the butter is and all of that. You get your good salsa that way. So I like all of that. I like some of the sauces, the hot sauces. I wanted to give a parting shout out because we talked about so much. I don't want to reiterate much, but something that didn't come up is Buffalo Wild Wings. Their garlic sauce is like garlic hot sauce. You can buy it, but you can get it there as well. Dude, I fucking love that shit. And you can buy it, and it's like you have to usually go in person to get it. And I used to buy a bunch of it when I'd go in. I think they kind of make it a little bit difficult to get. Like, they don't sell it openly in some places because then why would you go to Buffalo Wild Wings? But when I would get my hands on that would turn into my ketchup for fries, like everything. I would just eat the shit out of that stuff. That is, shout out to Buffalo Wild Wings, the good stuff. But this is the problem with Buffalo Wild Wings. See, Buffalo Wild Wings has a similar problem than Burger King. There are just not very many good Buffalo Wild Wings. In my experience, we used to go to Buffalo Wild Wings outside of San Francisco all the time. It was run by fucking like 16-year-olds. Like nothing was happening. That made sense. The bathrooms were disgusting. It was like a bomb went off in this place. So that's why I was attracted to getting the sauce, getting in and getting out. You know what I mean? So shout out to them. All right, let's get out of here. Is there anything else to say about this topic? I'm satisfied.
I had one quick question. We don't need to go into this too much. Maybe we all agree, but fuck steak sauce. If you're you don't need that
A1 sauce.
A1, get out of here. Okay, so we're not unanimous.
I never buy it
because
it's expensive.
You shouldn't be eating steak that you put sauce on.
Well, I was just gonna say that I like A1, but I don't want it on a steak. Like, it's not a bad condiment.
Yeah, on burgers, that's really good.
Yeah, but don't put it on. I don't want it on it. Like, I don't want that steak, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Dustin, but I'm also saying A1 itself is decent.
See, I love A1 sauce. Not that like I buy quality steaks. Colin will attest to that.
Not at Aldi though.
Like we
didn't mention that. Aldi steak
we don't
section.
buy meats.
That's their Achilles
No,
heel.
don't buy meats at Aldi's, except like frozen. But
Yeah.
I will say, the other day I'm at the grocery store and I wanted to buy some A1 sauce, and it was like $7 a bottle. And I was like, I'm not paying for that. Like, it would probably last me a long time, but I was just like, I can't pay $7 for a condiment.
Yeah, but you're
Like,
talking.
that just seemed, and the off-brand like steak sauce is not very good. So I was just like, never mind, I don't need it, but I do love it. I just won't pay for it.
I think most people who use A1 are coming from the same mentality of someone who buys expensive meat and then burns it to a crisp in order to eat it. So, $7 for steak sauce, from a mind like that probably makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it is a fair. A1, the thing I always think about with A1 is that the memes ruined it for me because A1 was founded during the Civil War and people think that that's like the funniest thing ever. And I think it is too. It's like, why was this founded in 1863? That's a weird time to found anything in the United States. Nothing was founded in the United States in 1863. What the hell were you guys doing? I have to know more about that. But that ever since seeing that meme, and you see that meme pop up every once in a while, that's all I think about with A1.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun. That was a fun show. Briefer show than usual, but I think that's good every once in a while, especially because we have to be mindful of Dustin so he can go to Pittsburgh. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone. We'll start with you, Dustin.
Yeah, this is a good time. Nice little quickie here on Constellation. Micah, you mentioned Berman's, another Aldi brand, part of the Aldi cinematic universe. I believe that our story behind Berman's, what this was like, maybe an ex-firefighter, ex-policeman who now in his retirement started up, Berman's, that's his last name. It's a family business that now under the Aldi wing. They don't like to interact with the Clancy's folks because they try to push them around every once in a while, but they're kind of outside of their circle. So, but yeah, shout out to the humble Berman's brand, just keeping it real, keeping the family business real. And let me know if you guys have any other or have any made up stories about the Aldi cinematic universe in the comments of this video. Thanks.
Ben, goodbye to you.
Goodbye. I just wanted to say, and then Micah brought up, people asking her about having kids. And I'm not putting any words in Micah's mouth. I'm not saying what her position is, but this is my position. Stop asking people about if they're going to have kids, if they're going to have more kids, if they already have kids. Like, stop. There's some really painful things for people that you don't always know about that it's not always the best question to ask. If they want to talk about it, they'll bring it up. But I've accidentally hurt people's feelings before by asking those questions, and I don't ask those questions anymore because I realize, like, if they want to tell me, they'll tell me. So, yeah, stop asking people if they're going to have kids. That's my opinion. That's not everybody's opinion, but it's my opinion.
Micah, goodbye.
Goodbye. Ben, very wise words, as always. I was going to talk about putting ketchup in chocolate milk and just recommending people try that at some point in time. But also, yes, please stop asking me about the kids, because you know what? What if I can't have kids? Right. I don't know that yet. But what if I couldn't? Then I'm going to be all sad and moppy about it. So don't ask. Leave me be. Put the ketchup in the chocolate.
I'm not doing that.
I just ignore the things you say about weird things about food now because I think you're just trying to get a rise out of everyone personally.
No, because here's the thing. When Dustin's like, somebody told you to do that, I swear on my mother's life that I did that of my own volition. It was delicious, and then I continued doing it.
All right.
Because it was just really good.
That's enough. That's enough. Goodbye to everyone out there. Thank you for your love, kindness, support of all things Last Stand Media, Constellation, etc. On Patreon, patreon.com/laststandmedia, merch, laststandmedia.store. You guys know the drill. We'll see you next time. For more on Dagan, we'll be back next time as well. Until then, goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.